When I was reborn back to the day my husband confessed he had fallen for our daughter's classmate, I readily accepted his request for a divorce. In my past life, I hadn't agreed to the divorce. The classmate was married off to another city, arranged by her parents. Upon learning this, my husband turned to heavy drinking, which eventually led to a stroke and left him partially paralyzed. I took care of him for a full decade, successfully helping him regain his ability to live independently. Little did I expect that the first thing he did after getting back on his feet was to divorce me. My daughter also forced me to sign. If you hadn't stubbornly refused to divorce back then, Dad wouldn't have gotten sick. I wouldn't have been mediocre my whole life without Dad's support. You're the root cause of all our family's problems. Get out of here now. My daughter threatened to kill herself, so I had no choice but to agree. After the divorce, my ex-husband married a young housekeeper. Meanwhile, I was diagnosed with a serious illness. My ex-husband and daughter both refused to help me. Within a few days, I closed my eyes for good. When I opened my eyes, I was back on the day my husband confessed to me. He was smoking a cigarette and said to me, "I've fallen in love with someone else, let's get a divorce." I nodded and said, "All right." He jerked his head up to look at me, a look of surprise on his face. "What did you say?" "Say that again." I picked up a large piece of braised pork belly and put it in my mouth, saying casually, "Divorce is fine, we split the assets 50-50, no objections, right?" He furrowed his brows, lowered his gaze in thought, and remained silent. I served myself a big bowl of rice and ate it in large mouthfuls. In my past life, I went hungry for over 3 days, not a drop of water to drink, and later died when my illness flared up. Now, I'm going to eat it all back. Su Jiang sighed and said helplessly, "Suji, I'm being serious with you. I've fallen in love with Xingxing, and she loves me just as deeply. Even though there's a 25-year gap between us, our souls are intimately connected. As my partner for the first half of my life, you should respect my choice and give me your sincere blessing." I nodded. "Fine, I've had enough of being with you anyway." He was taken aback again. Then, a look of pleasant surprise appeared on his face. You're really not just saying the opposite on purpose. You're not planning to make a huge scene." "I'll go with the default." He rubbed his hands together excitedly. "Good, it's excellent that you have this level of awareness. After following me for over 20 years, it's no surprise you've picked up a bit of my composure. Alright, let's divide the assets into 3 shares, one for you, one for me, and one for our daughter. That's how we'll do it. Consider this my way of treating you fairly. I'll go with Dad. Dad can manage my share of the money for me." Their daughter, who had been silently engrossed in her phone, suddenly spoke up. Su Jiang laughed heartily. "Great, so it's like you get 1 and I get 2. Honestly, Suji, this is already quite good. You're a 50-year-old housewife who hasn't contributed much to this family for over 20 years, relying on me to support you every day. Being able to take 1/3 is already very generous. You should be content." My daughter shook her phone. "Mom, I've already recorded you agreeing to the divorce just now. Don't even think about going back on your word." I gazed quietly at my daughter. My heart couldn't help but ache a little. This is my own flesh and blood. I truly believed we were mother and daughter, united as one. In my past life, when Su Jiang proposed a divorce, my first thought was to protect my daughter from the fallout. She's currently preparing for the civil service exam. She needs her father's guidance and support. I know Su Jiang all too well. Once we get divorced, he absolutely won't care for the child anymore, and I'm just a 50-year-old housewife, no job, no savings, and not much education either. I can't help my daughter in any way. By then, my daughter might not only fail the exam, but also face pickiness from potential partners when looking for a relationship. So, even though I knew my husband's heart was no longer at home, I gritted my teeth and endured the humiliation, desperately clinging to that broken marriage. Who would have thought that this good daughter would, years later, personally send me back to my rural hometown to fend for myself? She wouldn't even buy me a single grain of rice, let alone take me to see a doctor or get treatment. I pleaded with her over the phone. She responded coldly, "If you die, you die. It's not like someone as useless as you contributes much to society anyway. You're just wasting air by staying alive." Thinking of this, I smiled faintly and said, "Don't worry. I won't fight with your dad over you. Even if you wanted to come with me, I wouldn't take you." Her expression changed. Then she sneered, "Cut the act. No matter what you say, I won't go with you. What could you possibly do for me? Xingxing is my best friend. If she marries my dad, we'll be even closer than family. She's a proper master's graduate, young and beautiful. She's the only one worthy of my dad, a university professor. You and my dad standing together, you don't look like a couple at all." She stuck her tongue out at me. From now on, I'll have two cultured and refined people doting on me. I don't need you anymore. With that, she tossed her chopsticks aside and swaggered back to her room. I looked at the meal on the table, two-thirds of which she had eaten, and at the clothes hanging out to dry on the balcony, and the potted plant she bought but never watered, and the turtle she cried to keep but never once fed on her own. I've been doing all these things for her. In her eyes, all this effort is utterly worthless. Her father is a professor, so even if he does nothing, he's still a towering figure in her mind. I don't have a job, so even if I take care of every little thing in her life, I'm still seen as worthless. Such an ungrateful child. I don't want it anymore. 3. Right after finishing my meal, I headed out the door. Just as I reached the bottom of the stairs, I ran into Su Jiang and Zhou Wanqing walking up, chatting and laughing. They no longer bothered to hide from me. They were openly holding hands, fingers intertwined, as sweet and inseparable as glue. I acted as if I hadn't seen them, turning sideways to slip past and continue down. Mrs. Li, Zhou Wanqing called out to me. She was beaming with a radiant smile. Mrs. Li, are you heading out? Maybe you should come back a bit later. I'm afraid if you return too early and see something you shouldn't, it might be too much for you to handle. Something like this, for instance. She boldly pressed her lips against Su Jiang's, making a sound that would make anyone blush. Su Jiang's expression turned slightly unnatural. His eyes darted around. After the kiss, Zhou Wanqing added, Mrs. Teacher, did you know the teacher said he's going to buy me a big villa? Do you even know what a big villa is? Never lived in one, have you? Oh, after the divorce, you could work as a cleaner in the villa, that way, you'd get to live in it too. She blinked her eyes, as if uttering a string of blessings for others. The first day I met Zhou Wanqing, she was smiling just as sweetly and innocently. She said she also wanted to take the civil service exam and asked my husband for tutoring. Then, during the third week of tutoring, I heard her breathing coming from my husband's study through the door. I just like mature, sophisticated men like the professor. In my past life, I didn't let them be together. This time, I'll make sure they end up together no matter what. As for me, having money is enough. I hailed a cab and went straight to the job market. I led 6 people straight to my rural hometown. This is the only keepsake my parents left me. It's been over a decade since I last came back, and the place is all overgrown with weeds. In my past life, this is where I died. When my daughter dumped me back here, I slept with all sorts of bugs for days. That day, my daughter pointed at the big hole in the ground and told me, bet you never imagined, my dad hid 8 million in secret money behind your back. All of it was gifts from others, all in cash. You'd never think he'd stash it in this abandoned old house. A full 8 million. He never took out that money, not even when he had a stroke and couldn't collect his salary. My daughter took all my pension money and spent it on having a good time. I can only make ends meet by taking odd jobs to pay for his treatment. After he recovered, the first thing he did was withdraw that money to marry a new wife. He wouldn't even spare 100,000 for my treatment. Now, I'm going to take back everything that's rightfully mine. For after securing that sum of money, I went on a week-long revenge travel spree. I'm slowly making up for the regrets from my past life. Su Jiang texts me every day, urging me to go and finalize the divorce. I'm so annoyed just looking at your stuff now. Come back and move it out, quickly. How long do you plan on hiding? When I returned from my trip, my whole complexion looked much better. All the neighbors said I looked years younger. I joked, of course I'm happy, I'm getting a divorce. No more waiting on that old man. Everyone burst out laughing. Then, they naturally launched into a lively discussion about how some young girls could possibly stand kissing old men. I live on the 2nd floor. Looking up, I could see Zhou Wanqing standing on the balcony, angrily spitting in our direction. I pushed the door open to change my shoes and found my slippers were already gone. Oh well, I can skip changing them. I walked in and casually glanced around. Good grief, everything that could be replaced had been. Even the curtains weren't spared. Zhou Wanqing walked out and said arrogantly, teacher's wife, your taste is just too ugly, so I replaced it all. You don't mind, do you? After all, you're about to be kicked out of this house, aren't you? I replied calmly, it's fine that they're changed. I was getting tired of the old ones anyway. She glared at me angrily. Young girls are so impatient. A single sentence was enough to break her. Zhang Suji, your husband doesn't want you anymore. How dare you come back? Look clearly, the wedding photo is of me and him. The family portrait is of me and the two of them. There's no place for you anymore. I casually glanced at those 2 photos. I chuckled coldly. If I remember correctly, Su Jiang and I haven't finalized the divorce yet, have we? I am still his lawful and rightful spouse. So what? he doesn't love you anymore, you old hag. She yelled this so loudly the whole building could hear. Just then, the unclosed door was yanked open with force. A couple hurried in, Zhou Wanqing. The newcomer's eyes were red, their entire bodies trembling with anger. Zhou Wanqing panicked. Dad, Mom, what are you doing here? She seemed to realize something and turned to glare at me. It was you, you vile person. Before she could finish speaking, her father slapped her. I provided you with food and shelter, and instead of learning anything good, you're learning to break up families. Is that it? Get home. Su Jiang happened to return from work instinctively. He wanted to talk it out. In the end, he was beaten by the other person's parents and fled in a panic. By the time I finished a cup of tea, they had finally left. Su Jiang wiped the blood from his nose and informed me expressionlessly, "We'll go handle the paperwork this afternoon. I must give Xingxing a proper status." I laughed. Can you handle her parents? That's my business. As long as you sign the divorce papers, nothing else is a problem. I shook my head. I've thought about it for days and decided not to divorce after all. 5. Su Jiang's expression changed drastically. What did you just say? I shrugged my hands. You're right, I'm just a housewife. Zhou Wanqing even said that after the divorce, the best I could do is become a cleaner, so why should I even get a divorce? Anyway, from now on, I don't care what you do, I just want to keep the title of Mrs. Su. He slammed the table and stood up, his face contorted with rage. You must get a divorce. This frantic, furious look was exactly the same as in my past life. Back then, I still had lingering feelings for him. I couldn't bear to leave. Not leaving now is just a strategy. Su Jiang, you're a professor, you've read more books than others, you sort it out. What have I gained by marrying you? Is it the wealth of gold and jewels, or the carefree life where clothes come to hand and food comes to mouth? It's neither, right? What I've gained is merely the hardship of bearing and raising children, the bitterness of daily necessities, and the ingratitude of those who repay kindness with enmity. He looked at me in surprise, his imposing manner gradually weakening. I opened my mouth several times, but couldn't utter a single word. After a long pause, I finally said, "Didn't I give you a third of the money?" I set down my teacup and said slowly, "Your total savings are 180,000, a third of that is 60,000. How long would 60,000 last me? I don't even own a house. This house is my premarital property." I nodded. Exactly, all things considered. Divorce offers me no benefit. I've come to terms with it. I don't care who you fool around with from now on, it doesn't matter to me anymore. You're being completely unreasonable, insatiably greedy, a petty, money-grubbing wretch. The biggest regret of my life was marrying you, I said expressionlessly. Throw all her things out, otherwise, if I have to do it myself, none of it will be salvageable. With that, I went back to the master bedroom and threw all their belongings out the door. My daughter rushed back and unleashed a torrent of abuse at me. I put on my headphones, watched my show, and paid them no mind. At dinner time, they sat at the table, glaring at me with sour expressions. "Why haven't you started cooking yet?" I shrugged. "Are you kidding me? After treating me like this, you still expect me to cook for you?" With that, I went to get the takeout and ate it in my room. 3 days passed like this. My daughter finally snapped, "I can't take it anymore. Dad, divorce her. This house isn't worth much anymore, and the savings aren't much either. It's all just small change. I'm tired of her cooking too. Once Xingxing marries into our family, she'll cook for us. Make a decision quickly, otherwise, Xingxing's parents will marry her off to someone far away." 5 minutes later, Su Jiang came knocking on my door. "If you agree to the divorce, you can have the house and all the savings." 6. Su Jiang and I are completely divorced. He essentially left with nothing. Our daughter, Sun Wan, also moved in to live with him. I was left alone in the small house. Su Jiang somehow managed to persuade Zhou Wanqing's parents. Just 6 days after the divorce, he held a banquet to celebrate with friends and family. I was also on the guest list. Our mutual friends and family all advised me not to go. I went anyway. Zhou Wanqing wore a floor-length wedding gown encrusted with diamonds, as opulent as British royalty. The banquet hall glittered with gold everywhere. It was said that even the flowers were premium imports flown in from abroad. Everyone teases Su Jiang, saying that an old bull eating tender grass must be willing to spend money, especially when the tender grass is so young and beautiful. From now on, he'll probably have to work even harder to earn money. Su Jiang grinned from ear to ear, his face glowing, and waved it off nonchalantly. "If my wife loves to spend money, let her spend it, otherwise, what am I earning money for?" He has never said anything like that to me. All he ever tells me is, 3004. Household expenses is plenty, you need to spend it carefully. It's not easy for me to earn money. Zhou Wanqing, holding his arm, walked over to toast me. After looking me up and down, she exclaimed in surprise, "Auntie, you came to the wedding banquet without bringing a gift." She had someone bring over a brush and rice paper. "How about you write a blessing for us, Auntie? Auntie, you can read and write, right?" I smiled and said, "Of course." I picked up the brush and deftly wrote the four large characters, harmonious coexistence. Someone burst into laughter. "This ex-wife is truly ridiculous. Who exactly is she trying to subtly mock here? The groom and bride are in love, and the daughter is best friends with the bride. With that combination, how could they not get along?" They never expected that on the very first day back from their honeymoon, Su Jiang would get into an argument with his daughter. The argument was so intense that even I, as the ex-wife, found out about it. 7. That day, I was out shopping with a few of my old girlfriends. Out of the blue, the police station called and asked me to come in. When I arrived, I saw Sunwan sitting to the side with a stern face, bruises around the corner of her mouth and the corner of her eye. Tears were streaming down from the corner of her eye. Beside her, Su Jiang was holding Zhou Wanqing, trying to comfort her. The police officer said, "You're Sunwan's biological mother, right?" Sunwan maliciously damaged someone else's property, causing a total loss of 58,000. Her position is that you should pay for it. I should pay for it. Sunwan retorted with righteous indignation, "You're my biological mother. If you don't pay for it, who will? I don't want that man who chose love over family to pay for me anyway." Su Jiang scolded her in frustration. "Enough. Stop acting like a spoiled child. You were in the wrong from the start. How dare you even think of calling the police? You hit me. Of course I'm calling the police. When did I ever hit you? I was just trying to scare you. I didn't actually lay a hand on you. Besides, if you hadn't scratched up Xingxing's dress and torn her bag, would I have gotten so angry?" Su Jiang turned to me and said, "Zhang Suji, look at the manners of the daughter you raised. All Xingxing did was ask her to wash the dishes. If she didn't want to, fine, but she had to go and bully her instead. Why should I be the one washing dishes every single day? You all went off on your honeymoon, eating, drinking, and having fun, while I was stuck at home eating instant noodles. I asked you to bring me a gift, and you came back with nothing, and the moment you return, you expect me to wash the dishes. Pa, what gives you the right? And another thing, I'm studying for exams. You're making me cook, do the dishes, and do the laundry. How am I supposed to study?" Zhou Wanqing straightened her neck and retorted, "You're an adult, living at home for free, eating for free, and not handing over your salary. What's wrong with asking you to cook and wash dishes? Isn't that your responsibility? Have some shame. Other people your age are already married. You're living off my husband's money and you don't even want to contribute. Are you dreaming?" Sun Wan, furious, rolled up her sleeves and thumped her chest. "When have I ever cooked a single meal in my life? Hasn't my mom always made food and served it to me? You're my stepmother now, so you have to take on that responsibility. Otherwise, why did my dad marry you? Do you really think you're some kind of treasure?" Zhou Wanqing bit her lip, tears falling, and nestled into Su Jiang's arms. "Honey, look at her." Su Jiang comforted her tenderly, "Don't cry, don't cry. I'll always be on your side." Sun Wan's eyes instantly reddened. She jumped to my side and grabbed my arm. "Mom, I've changed my mind. From now on, I'm staying with you. Give her the 50,000, let's go." Even as she said this, her gaze was fixed entirely on Su Jiang. She was just waiting for him to coax her. "I'm just a tool, nothing more." "But even a tool can have its moment of awakening." I pushed her hand away. "The day you chose your father, you died in my heart. Don't call me for your affairs anymore." She was taken aback. Su Jiang was also stunned. Even Zhou Wanqing got angry. "No matter how much you deny it, she is your daughter. The only one who can inherit your estate. Let me tell you, if she inherits from you, she cannot inherit from her father's estate." "So that's the plan." I didn't need to say anything more. Sun Wan had already run over on her own. She dropped the game of playing hard to get. She directly latched onto Su Jiang's arm and started competing with Zhou Wanqing. I gave a cold smile, turned and walked away without a word. As it turned out, Sun Wan came to see me that very night. She planned to stay here until her father came to coax her back home. I had already changed the door lock. She couldn't open it. "I told you, you're not my daughter anymore." She kicked at the door for an hour, hurling insults at me the entire time. In the dead of night, someone suddenly came to pick her up. She sent me a message, something harsh about not supporting me in my old age. After that, she blocked me. My heart is at peace. 8. The next day, To change my mood, I signed up for a yoga class. On the way there, someone sent me a message. It said that Su Jiang had secretly gone to my hometown. He was probably trying to get his hands on that money. I smiled and told them to keep an eye on him. I signed up for the most basic yoga class. The class next door is the one with a stronger academic foundation. I never expected to run into Zhou Wanqing and Sun Wan here. They seemed as close as ever, chatting and laughing, with no sign of having argued at all. Upon seeing me, Sun Wan turned her head away, pretending not to notice. Zhou Wanqing, on the other hand, seemed much more mature than before and walked over with a smile to greet me. "Auntie, are you here for yoga too?" "Got it. Have you been reading too many of those feel-good posts on Zaya Hongshu, the ones that say changing yourself will lead to a second spring in life, so you're trying to change yourself too? I suggest you save your energy. At your age, that extra weight isn't going anywhere. Grabbing fast food and joining the square dancing crowd is more your speed. Otherwise, why would you have been dumped?" Many pairs of eyes from the surroundings discreetly glanced over. I smiled faintly and said softly, "Anyone blessed with a long life will grow old someday. Getting old isn't the problem is not knowing shame. Don't be like you, flaunting being the other woman as if it's some glorious family achievement." She straightened her posture. "So what if I'm proud of winning him over from you?" Before I could even speak, several girls had already gathered around. "Oh wow, you're actually proud of picking up someone else's leftovers. Seriously, she looks normal, but who knew she had a thing for old men, passing up handsome guys for some old geezer, maybe a stroke from a past life carried over into this one. Only a dog eats someone else's scraps, and you're bragging about it. You break up a family and still have the nerve to act righteous. I'd love to see who raised you." Zhou Wanqing couldn't win the argument and stomped off in a huff. I was pulled down to sit by a pair of gossipy sisters. "Sis, don't take someone like that seriously. It's not worth getting upset over. Let me tell you, she has terrible intentions. That girl just now is your daughter, right? She's planning to set her up with someone to get a bride price. To put it bluntly, she's selling her daughter, and your daughter doesn't even know about it. So that's how it is. No wonder they made up so quickly. That woman was even bragging to us, saying that after marrying off that burden, she and her husband would move into a big villa. She said her husband was going to buy her a house worth over 10 million, and the down payment was already ready. They even went to look at houses. This thing is real. Sis, I really think it's unfair for you. Your ex-husband actually spent so much money on a woman like that." I laughed and said, "Well, you have to have the money to spend it. Without money, even if he wanted to, it wouldn't matter." After finishing the coffee, I went home. A message came through on my phone. "Boss, your ex-husband dug up the entire yard. After finding nothing, his face went pale with fright. But he didn't call the police." "Call the police, huh? It would be useless even if he did. All that money was in cash, and it all came from bribes given to him by students' parents. He would have wanted to destroy all evidence. How could he possibly leave any trace behind? Now the money is gone, he'll just have to accept his loss. The only question is, without the money, how is Zhou Wanqing going to buy that big villa?" 3 months later, I ran into Zhou Wanqing again at the yoga class. She put the access card for a certain residential complex on the back of her phone case and flaunted it everywhere. Someone told me they said it was a large, flat apartment in a prime location. Although not as valuable as a villa, it's certainly not cheap. I heard her parents forced her ex-husband to buy it, threatening divorce otherwise. She was clearly after the man's money and social status from the start, which is somewhat understandable. And to think, that woman even managed to become a civil servant thanks to your ex-husband. You have to admit, she's got some luck. What's more, your ex-husband is throwing another banquet to celebrate for her." I looked at my already curvy figure in the mirror and remarked casually, "That must cost a pretty penny, right?" "Of course it does. Some people say your ex-husband has spent this much on her since they remarried. Their wedding was apparently paid for with borrowed money. Something about funds being tied up and unavailable. That big apartment was bought with loans too. I bet this banquet is also on credit." It was all within my expectations. Su Jiang is a man who cares deeply about face. He is currently overdrawing on his credibility. However, credibility will eventually run dry one day. Coincidentally, before this class ended, I received a phone call. The caller claimed to be a student of Su Jiang, professor's wife. The professor borrowed 500,000 from me, and it's already been over half a month past the due date. Without repayment, could you please urge him? We are already divorced. please go find his new wife. Over the next few days, I received no fewer than 5 similar calls. I politely explained the situation to each caller and provided the address. At the same time, my assistant informed me that Su Jiang had also dug up the backyard of my old family home. I was so anxious my hair turned gray that night. I suddenly received a message from him. Did you dig up a sum of money at your old home? I admitted it openly. Of course, that's the inheritance my parents left me. He called me directly to yell at me. That's bullshit, Zhang Suji, that's my money. Your parents were poor farmers, where would they get 8 million from? Let me tell you, even in the worst case scenario, that's marital property, you have no right to take it all for yourself. I feigned surprise. 8 million, you said 8 million, you actually have 8 million. He was stunned. You didn't know. I laughed. What do I know? I was just lying to you earlier. When have I ever dug up any money? Are you running a fever and talking nonsense? If you really have 8 million, then half of it is indeed mine. Please wire it to me immediately. His voice came through, weak and powerless. Suji, I really don't have time to mess around with you. Give me my money back. At least give me half. I'm 50 years old now. I can't take this kind of scare. Ha. Now you realize you're 50. I mocked him. If you want me to give it to you, first prove you have 8 million. Then prove that the money is in my hands. With that, I hung up the phone. 10. Su Jian didn't give up and kept sending me messages. He didn't dare to keep cursing at me, nor did he dare to pressure me. Instead, he used a tone of negotiation, attempting to soften my stance. I really had no idea girls these days could spend money like this. She buys a new bag every few days and always wants new clothes. And she turns her nose up at anything ordinary. When you were young, you were never like this. You were perfectly content with clothes that cost a few dozen yuan, and you never asked me for anything that cost over 1,000. I smiled bitterly. I wish I could spit right in his face. I was such a fool back then, foolishly not asking for anything. In the end, I ended up in such a miserable state. The phone kept ringing incessantly. She just spends money and doesn't work, does nothing around the house, and wants to be treated like a little princess. Nguyen doesn't help me either, so I have to spend money on hiring a part-time cleaner, another big expense. When you were here, it was never like this. You'd tidy up the house without me having to say a word, and I never had to worry about a thing. I couldn't hold back any longer and sent a voice message. It's exactly this kind of me that makes you think I'm cheap, isn't it? He kept typing, but nothing came through for a long time. About 10 minutes later he finally said, Suji, Nguyen failed the civil service exam. I plan to send her abroad for further studies. You understand, right? How much could you possibly spend on your own? Just wire me 1 million first. How ridiculous. I couldn't be bothered to argue with him and just blocked and deleted him. He kept texting me from different phones, but I didn't read any of them. Now he's starting to panic. But this is just the beginning. Zhou Wanqing is a genuine money pit. In her previous life, after her parents married her off to another region, she could have lived quite comfortably. However, she was both envious of others and lazy, refusing to work and instead squandering her husband's family's money all day long. She even gambled away the money for her mother-in-law's medical bills. In just a few short years, she managed to squander the fortune of what was once a wealthy A8-tier family. In her desperate pursuit of money, she sold her husband's trade secrets to a competitor. This led to the bankruptcy of her husband's family business. In a fit of rage, her husband beat her so severely that she was left permanently disabled. I remember, back then, her parents even turned around and blamed me for not divorcing her in the first place. If their daughter had married Su Jiang, she wouldn't have been beaten to death this time. I'll let her marry him and see how it ends for her. Not long after, I was threatened by people Su Jiang hired. I had anticipated this and quickly reported it to the police. The other party slunk away in disgrace. I seized the opportunity to post the incident online. Su Jiang's reputation at school took a hit. He didn't dare to make a big fuss, as that money wasn't exactly clean to begin with. It concerned his pride and his future career. He had no choice but to swallow the loss in silence. Not long after, I heard he had a fight with Zhou Wanqing. It started because Zhou Wanqing wanted to go out for a fancy meal. Su Jiang wasn't unfamiliar with such meals. He knew those places served tiny portions of mediocre food at outrageous prices, so he declined. Instead, he took her to a reasonably priced and delicious Chinese restaurant on the spot. Consequently, Zhou Wanqing publicly poured a bowl of cold dish over his head and called him a useless good-for-nothing right to his face. The incident was filmed and posted online, where it became a subject of mockery. An old geezer who can't get a woman his own age. Some old friends told me that Su Jiang was the subject of a lot of gossip at school, To the point he didn't dare walk with his head held high serves him right. 11 Just 3 days after this incident, something happened at the yoga studio that day. I was in the middle of teaching a class. The sound of shouting and fighting came from the classroom next door. I walked over and saw Zhou Wanqing being held by the hair by two girls who were demanding money. You have to pay back the money your husband owes. He already confessed. He said all the money he gave you was spent on luxury goods. Just sell those bags and you can pay us back, Zhou Wanqing roared. That's nonsense. My husband is a university professor. How could he possibly send you to ask me for a few measly dollars? Take a good look at this access card. It's for a high-end residential complex. I live in a luxury penthouse. The two of them sneered. Your big apartment has been sold. You have no home now. All those bags in your house were sold off by your husband. We just need the one on your hand to clear your debt. Pay us back. Zhou Wanqing was dumbfounded. She whipped her head around to look at me. You old hag, was this your doing? Before she could finish, a slap landed across her mouth. How dare you yell at Ms. Zhang? When she was still married to him, Professor Su never borrowed money from us. It wasn't until he got involved with a troublemaker like you that he turned into a complete monster. You're nothing but a curse. Zhou Wanqing's hair was completely disheveled, and she didn't look as pretty as she usually did. I caught my reflection in the mirror. I hadn't realized when it happened, but I looked much younger now. A woman really must learn to love herself. 12 It was already 3 months later when I saw Su Jiang again. As I walked out of the residential complex gate, I encountered an old man with disheveled hair. I almost didn't recognize him. He looked equally surprised when he saw me. Suji, did you get cosmetic work done? Now, I have curves where curves should be, but the main thing is my radiant energy. He was the complete opposite. His eye sockets were sunken, with dark circles beneath. He looked like a walking corpse, utterly drained of his soul. If you're here to ask me for money, don't bother. He grabbed my arm. His lips trembled as he forced out the words, I want to ask you, can we ever go back to how we were? He added another sentence, that bitch Zhou Wanqing. She saw I had no money or a big house for her, and she was never home. I worked odd jobs everywhere to earn money and pay off debts, but she never lifted a finger to help me. Instead, she was always going in and out with other men. Nuan is also so unreasonable. I told her to get married so we could use the bride price to help me out, but she just wouldn't listen. She insists on marrying some poor guy she has a connection with. She even scolded me for not being able to help her. That child is nothing but an ungrateful wretch. I regret it. I really do. I shouldn't have broken up with you. I pulled my hand away. I looked at him with disgust. Sorry, but I never go back to my exes. He froze. His face turned ashen. For the sake of peace and quiet, I soon moved to another city. I thought I would never have to face them again in my life until one late night the following spring, I suddenly received a call from my daughter, Sun Wan. She pleaded with me through tears, Mom, please come back. Something terrible has happened to Dad. That shameless woman, Zhou Wanqing, got him drunk and provoked him into having a stroke. She ran off immediately and took all the money from the house. I just found out that Dad never officially registered their marriage with her. They only held a wedding ceremony. No wonder the Zhou parents were willing to marry their daughter off to him. So that's how it is. Mom, I just got married, and my in-laws aren't exactly well off. I really can't take care of Dad. You should come back. He needs you. He's limited in his movements now. He'll absolutely never do anything to hurt you again. You can be sure of that. I cut her off. You think he's some kind of treasure. Why on earth should I rush to wait on him hand and foot? I'm just his ex-wife. You're his daughter. You can't escape this responsibility. Do you understand? After saying that, I hung up the phone. I knew Sunwan wouldn't take responsibility just as she did for me in a past life, but I've lost interest in paying attention to it. From now on, I'll just focus on living my life well. I'll cherish every moment that comes next. The end. Story 2. I'm the notorious shrew of the entire county. Chen Shiqing is the famously kind-hearted soul around these parts, yet fate made us husband and wife. Everyone says we're a mismatched pair. Later, during the reform and opening up period, Chen Shiqing was reunited with his birth parents and reverted to his original surname, Gu. The Gu family refused to accept a daughter-in-law of questionable character, so Gu Shiqing divorced me. I was left to wither away with my illness in the countryside. He remarried in the city, to an educated youth who'd once boarded with our family years earlier. From that moment on, Chen Manqing and Gu Shiqing were strangers to each other, but mercifully, by heaven's grace, I was given a second chance at life. 1. The scorching sun turned the world into a colossal steamer. tormenting every living soul. I walked away from the production brigade with light, buoyant steps. Passing through the village entrance, I spotted Chen Shicheng mustering with others on that sweltering day when everyone wore short sleeves or tank tops. He alone sported a faded blue long-sleeved jacket. It wasn't that he didn't feel the heat, his patched-up undershirt told the real story. That bleached-out jacket was the only presentable garment he owned. The reason he's so particular about his appearance today is that we got word the educated youth assigned to our production brigade are arriving ahead of schedule. Our village operates as a production brigade, with 3 production teams under it. As deputy leader of Team 2, he was suddenly tasked with joining members from the other 2 teams to meet the educated youth in town. Though everyone wore similarly shabby clothes, Chen Shicheng's ramrod posture made him stand out from the crowd. He spotted me, exchanged greetings with others, then walked toward me with an unusually tender smile. "Manching, I'll get you some white rabbit candies when I go to town this time." Sugar required both money and ration coupons. Either was precious enough. White rabbit candies were even pricier, costing over 2 yuan per half kilogram. As deputy team leader, Chen Shicheng could earn at most 11 work points a day, which barely amounted to 30 or 50 cents. Hearing this, the young lads nearby couldn't help but tease, "Chen Shicheng, if you've got any money left, why not get yourself some decent clothes? Let those educated youths see what a fine young man our village has to offer." Truth be told, Chen Shicheng's looks were indeed presentable. That's why I kept giving him chance after chance. Some people even told me, "Manching, Shicheng's been stashing secret money behind your back, and you're not even investigating. This calls for some domestic discipline." Secret funds, what a loaded term. Chen Shicheng is my parents' adopted son, and we grew up together. The villagers took it for granted that we'd eventually marry, so they tacitly accepted this ambiguous relationship between us. I refused to handle this with the same bashful smile as my past life. I glared at those people and snapped, "If any of you keep spreading nonsense and ruin my brother's chances of finding a wife, I'll report you to the brigade leader and party secretary." Since I wasn't married to Chen Shicheng yet and hadn't earned my reputation as a shrew, my words carried no weight at all. But it was enough. I just needed to draw the line between Chen Shicheng and me. Those people weren't intimidated, but Chen Shicheng panicked instead. He anxiously explained to me, "Manching, don't listen to them, all my money is yours to manage. Please don't be mad at me, okay?" The cautious, almost pleading tone in his voice stabbed at my heart. "I'm not angry, just don't waste money on candy, and be careful on your way." I gave Chen Shicheng a reassuring smile. Chen Shicheng visibly relaxed and smiled back at me. Little did he know, that smile belonged to the Chen Shicheng who hadn't yet met He Shuilian. It would never appear again. The old Chen Shicheng, indebted to my parents, had truly taken good care of me. He handed over every penny he earned from his work points to me. Once when I stained my pants during my period, he even washed them for me by the river. That's how the village got the idea I was spoiled, but that was the only time. Since he rarely lifted a finger at home, that one act made him seem like a rare catch in others' eyes too. In my past life, it was also at the village entrance. Chen Shicheng promised to bring me white rabbit candies. I smiled and said yes. Then I waited for his return with eager anticipation. In the end, he gave all his sugar to He Shuilian, the female educated youth suffering from hypoglycemia. Chen Shicheng even borrowed money to buy He Shuilian 2 pairs of rubber shoes, replacing her petit bourgeois leather pumps that marked her as a capitalist's daughter, sparing her from the production brigade's gossip. Helping others is never wrong. Our parents always taught us to learn from Lei Feng's spirit of selflessness, yet he let He Shuilian move into our home, slapping me right in the face with that betrayal. Chen Shicheng was obsessive about cleanliness, so I kept our home spotless at all times. I even scrubbed the pigsty clean every single day. Running water was scarce back then, let alone in a dirt-poor village like ours. Every household in the village had to fetch water from the old well at the village center. Our 2-person household with Chen Shicheng required more daily water hauling than families of 6. I had to make the trips before dawn to avoid peak hours. Chen Shicheng grew impatient when kept waiting too long. The sudden arrival of educated youth during harvest season forced the production brigade to convert the old communal dining hall into temporary dormitories. The place was small, barely enough to accommodate some of us. The rest had to be scattered among different households. After our parents passed away, we had an extra room in our house. Chen Shicheng and I left that room untouched, keeping it exactly as it was. Cleaning it daily gave us the illusion that our parents were still here. In my past life, when Chen Shicheng went to town to fetch the educated youth, the brigade secretary came to me, "Manching, I know this pains you, which is why I've kept your parents' house untouched all this time, but these educated youths coming to our village are here to help develop the countryside. We can't leave them without proper housing. After my parents passed, the villagers did lend us their support. Times are tough for everyone. Yet they're still willing to lend us a hand. I have no reason to object. The one who disagrees is Chen Shicheng. He's a neat freak. Chen Shicheng told me, "Manqing, this is our home. I don't want outsiders living here." I understood what he meant. He's known as the nicest guy on the team. There's no way he'd turn anyone down. To spare Chen the awkwardness, I invoked my parents' honorable sacrifice for the village as justification to keep the house. Yet in the blink of an eye, Chen Shicheng had He Shuilian move in. Everyone got their happy ending, except me. People all thought Chen Shicheng had spoiled me into becoming this unreasonable. After that, no matter what happened, the production team always took Chen Shicheng and He Shuilian's side, blaming everything on me. The moment I woke up in my new life, I went straight to the production brigade and volunteered to spare a room for the educated youth. The brigade leader was utterly surprised since I'd initially refused. The party secretary later had to enlighten me through ideological persuasion. The secretary asked why I'd changed my mind. I lowered my head and muttered awkwardly, "My brother values cleanliness, he doesn't want anyone else living here." But I raised my head to meet the party secretary's gaze, my voice resolute. "My parents were martyrs. As their child, I shouldn't be selfish." The secretary praised me. "Manqing, you're a good girl." I shook my head. "No, I'm not. I shouldn't have abandoned my principles just because of my brother's wishes." The party secretary said, "That's the right attitude. Keep it up and strive for better performance." The squad leader beside me asked, "Did Chen Shicheng really say he didn't want others staying at his place?" I feigned embarrassment and nodded, then begged them to keep it confidential. "My brother's too shy to say no himself. That's why he asked me to speak up. Please don't tell him, I'll convince him to agree." The squad leader's expression darkened instantly. "I know why he's angry." The party secretary saw me out, then quickly went back inside. Standing by the corner, I heard the brigade captain swear, "Damn it, asking me to be his party recommender while playing dirty tricks to sabotage our youth program." "Old Wang, don't be upset. He's not the only educated one in the brigade. Manqing has always been sensible. I've seen her handling all the household chores and actively helping the elderly widows in the village." "You're right. Manqing actually got into high school back then, but she gave her spot to Shicheng. If we're being honest, she's the true daughter of old Chen and his wife, the real deal through and through." I didn't stay to hear more. With a light chuckle, I walked away from the production brigade at a brisk pace. Manqing, you shouldn't have gone to the brigade leader and the party secretary without discussing it with me first." Chen Shicheng confronted me. He looked at me with disappointment, accustomed to me backing down first. Truth be told, I was the truly disappointed one. Whenever He Shuilian was around, Chen Shicheng would lose himself, blinded by the humiliation burning through him. He failed to notice the two frail female educated youths lingering outside the door, their luggage at their feet, hesitating whether to enter. I imagine his heart must have ached terribly today upon seeing He Shuilian, that delicate beauty from the city. He Shuilian always projected an image of exquisite fragility, carrying an air of aristocratic grace even city girls lacked. As for Chen Shicheng, known to everyone as that kind-hearted soul, he felt duty-bound to protect such a vulnerable young woman. Then he'd go to the brigade leader and party secretary, saying I was being unreasonable while volunteering to host the educated youth himself. That's exactly what he did in our past life, but this time, I beat him to it. The brigade leader and party secretary must have given him quite the cold shoulder. I gave Chen Shicheng a pitiful look and said, "Bro, I'm sorry for acting on my own, but I knew you're too kind-hearted to let the educated youth go homeless. That's why you went to the party secretary to arrange their stay at our place." My words were absolutely impeccable. He was just too eager to show off, hastily painting me as irresponsible in front of the secretary and brigade leader to highlight his own selflessness. But this time, his scheme backfired spectacularly. Chen Shicheng gave a resigned chuckle, putting on his best big brother act. "Make sure to tell me in advance next time you do anything." I murmured an acknowledgement, then flashed a radiant smile toward the doorway. "Are you the educated youth from the city? I've cleaned the house, you can move right in." I didn't bother to see how dark Chen Shicheng's expression had turned. I helped carry their belongings inside and placed them in my parents' room. The two female educated youths murmured their thanks. I agreed to host the educated youths, but I made it clear to the party secretary that our better living conditions should only accommodate those truly in need. I waved it off casually. "You're here to support rural development. If anything, we should be thanking you." He Shuilian is the rotten apple that spoils the whole barrel. Most of the educated youth were genuinely hardworking. Though initially unaccustomed to the grueling farm work, they persevered, with some dedicating tireless efforts to boost crop yields. I truly admire these educated youth. Shuilian was the exception, for I thought with Shuilian no longer living with us, we'd rarely cross paths, but that wasn't the case. I kept running into Shuilian everywhere, always with Shicheng hovering around her like a devoted attendant. Could you talk to the brigade leader? I really can't stand the dormitory, they're all ganging up on me. Truth is, He Shuilian was the one bullying others, especially those two educated youths with poor health whom the brigade leader assigned to stay with us. He Shuilian had this uniquely sickly sweet way of speaking. She had zero work ethic. Even when Chen Shicheng abused his authority to give her the easiest tasks, she'd constantly skip work, cut corners every day, and still mess things up. If not for the scorekeeper doing Chen Shicheng a favor, He Shuilian's work point record would be downright embarrassing. Nobody wanted to be grouped with He Shuilian in my past life. Chen Shicheng selfishly paired me with He Shuilian. Officially, I was assigned to help educated youth learn farm work, but really, I just ended up doing He Shuilian's share. He Shuilian's only job was to play the perfect lover to Chen Shicheng in the end. She even took credit for all my hard work while I got stuck cleaning up her messes over my dead body. Will He Shuilian get her way? I'd rather shovel shit than give He Shuilian a chance to leech off me, so I actually signed up for manure duty. I heard Chen Shicheng say pityingly, "Shuilian, just bear with it a little longer." He Shuilian whined, "I won't stay at someone else's place, it's filthy." He Shuilian was originally assigned to stay with another team member's family, but she insisted on living in the educated youth dormitory, complaining about their poor hygiene. Alright, I'll make sure you stay with us. A day apart feels," He Shuilian continued, "like 3 autumns," and Xingzhou holding a manure ladle and I exchanged bewildered glances. Even the stench of manure wasn't as nauseating as their flirting. The moment they left, and Xingzhou and I simultaneously gagged in perfect sync. Who'd have thought people would actually flirt in front of an outhouse? They probably thought nobody would visit the latrine at noon, hence the audacity. Little did I know, and Xingzhou and I were right behind the outhouse. 5 And Xingzhou was the newly arrived educated youth. When tasks were assigned, he volunteered for the night soil collection duty. All the educated youth felt indebted to him, yet unconsciously kept their distance. Without memories of my past life, I'd probably have dismissed Xingzhou as an oddball too. Keeping my distance on Chen Shicheng's advice, Chen Shicheng thought Xingzhou was filthy in truth, and Xingzhou was the only educated youth genuinely committed to rural development. His father, a university professor, had been sent to a cadre school in the neighboring town. Since Xingzhou refused to disown his father, he was sent to our remote backwater for re-education. As an educated youth. Given his family background, the production brigade would assign him the manure-carrying chores even if he didn't volunteer. Everyone agreed that re-education meant doing the hardest, most grueling labor, and Xingzhou was a decent man. The austere life as an educated youth never dimmed his determination to serve the people. The national college entrance exams were reinstated. I heard he continued his studies in an agriculture-related field. I ran into him once years later, and Xingzhou made a brief appearance as a representative at the town's agricultural technology seminar. The scheduled 2-hour technical presentation was time he'd carved out from his packed schedule. He ended up staying for 2 extra days, leaving the conference hall to work directly in the fields, patiently solving farmers' problems while sacrificing his only family visit leave. His love for this land runs deep. I didn't really want to carry night soil. I just wanted to help in Xingzhou, not just because I admired him but also because he was the only one who ever spoke up for me in my past life. Grass won't rot without soil, and soil won't grow fertile without grass. Our production brigade was dirt poor, couldn't even get our hands on chemical fertilizer. Fertilizer was rarer than white rabbit candies. People could live without sweets, but crops couldn't survive without fertilizer. Even when our brigade leader begged daily at the commune for quotas, we still couldn't afford the damn fertilizer. Just poor, hopelessly, desperately poor. After assessing the village's situation, and Xingzhou began studying compost preparation during our breaks. We'd previously dug a large pit by the fields. At first, only the party secretary and brigade leader knew what we were planning, and Xingzhou told me, "I've surveyed our brigade. River silt, aquatic weeds, and livestock manure are well prepared, but we're still missing one key ingredient." I asked, "What?" "We need to add lime to the raw materials to stimulate microbial activity." I didn't understand what microbes were, but since Xingzhou said it was necessary, I'd go ask the production brigade. I had more sway there than he did. I nodded, "All right." I'll talk to the brigade leader. This should be easier to get than fertilizer. And Xingzhou smiled. His smile was charming, carrying the refined confidence of a scholar. And Xingzhou asked, Chen Manqing, do you really have that much faith in my success? Yes, I believe in you wholeheartedly. What if we fail? Then we'll start over, I replied casually, adding, I'll be right there with you. And Xingzhou paused, then smiled. It'll work, Chen Manqing. This composting method was already tested in the village where my classmate was sent to work. Good, I'll go ask the brigade leader for some lime then. I waved at him and walked away. Chen Manqing, and Xingzhou suddenly called out to me. I turned back, looking at him in confusion. Catch, and Xingzhou tossed something my way. Out of instinctive trust, I reached out to catch it before my brain even registered the action. 3 white rabbit milk candies. He gave me a reassuring smile, signaling everything was fine. The candies had partially melted in my pocket, yet they remained deliciously sweet, so sweet it left a bitter taste in my heart. So this is the white rabbit candy Chen Shiqing gave He Shuilian. Nothing special after all. My mind swirled with countless thoughts, yet my steps remained resolute as I marched toward the production brigade. And Xingzhou needed compost pits. That's what we'd been digging earlier. I've already reported this to the production brigade. I'm willing to vouch for Xingzhou, the brigade leader and party secretary, support anything that boosts production, which is why they hold Xingzhou in high regard. In the past, Chen Shiqing disliked the smell on Xingzhou and repeatedly ignored his composting proposals, failing to report them promptly. That year, the harvest was poor. The village where Xingzhou was sent for rural work had a bumper harvest that year thanks to successful compost fermentation, earning provincial recognition and becoming a hot topic. Our village didn't send anyone to learn composting techniques until the following year, but that single year of famine devastated countless families. When people go hungry, their immune systems weaken, making them more susceptible to illness. When illness strikes a person, the whole family collapses. I won't let this happen again. 6. I walked along the field ridge, heading toward the production brigade. Workers began trickling into the fields for their daily labor. Several young lads nearly tumbled into the irrigation ditch while gawking at me instead of watching their step. The villagers greeted me with warm, friendly smiles. At that moment, I truly felt reborn. Far from being the village shrew, I was actually the belle of the countryside. Before marrying Chen Shiqing, matchmakers practically wore out our doorstep. Back then, Chen Shiqing would always play the jealous card, feigning illnesses to keep my attention. I originally saw him as nothing more than an older brother figure, just 1 year my senior. I was always the one looking after him more. Before Dad passed, he told Mom that since Chen Shiqing had lost his parents and we'd taken him in, we must take good care of him. Later, when Mom was dying, she left me with the same instruction. No one ever considered that I'd lost my parents too. Back in those days, people were genuinely kind-hearted with high moral standards, often treating adopted children even better than their own. I always gave way to Chen Shiqing, time and again, from high school admission opportunities to party membership applications, even the recommendation quotas for worker peasant soldier students. Before He Shuilian came along, everyone just assumed I'd marry Chen Shiqing. Even I thought so myself. After all, I gave so much for him. It was Chen Shiqing who confessed to me first. Remember, like a stubborn sapling, I blossomed with joy under his daily care. How could those drab wildflowers from the countryside compare to the dazzling blooms of the city? Bound by gratitude to my family, Chen Shiqing reluctantly gave me this marriage, but that was all. All he could offer was a title, because he pledged his love to someone else. I don't resent him for moving on, only for deceiving me all these years and wasting my youth. How many opportunities to grow did I sacrifice for compromise? Never again in this lifetime. I'll soar higher and farther than Chen Shiqing ever could. No more sacrificing opportunities for his sake, nor being the worthless village woman he claims me to be. Even if I'm just a wildflower, I'll bloom with all my might. 7. Little did I expect to hear my own name when I reached the production brigade's gate. How can you be so sure that person is Manqing? Through the window, I saw the squad leader's furrowed brows, deep enough to crush a fly. Chen Shiqing supported the sobbing He Shuilian. These two self-absorbed individuals remained completely oblivious to the squad leader's growing impatience. Chen Shiqing encouraged He Shuilian. Don't be afraid, Shuilian. Speak up. I won't take Manqing's side. I scoffed, as if I needed his favor. He Shuilian seemed to gather her courage and said, I saw Chen Manqing come to our educated youth dormitory. No outsiders had visited before. I had indeed been to the educated youth dormitory, but I went to the boys' dormitory looking for Xingzhou. When we were carrying manure buckets together, I noticed his shoulders were uncomfortable. After Mom passed away, I was the one who carried all the water for our household. I knew exactly how painful it was to have your shoulders rubbed raw by a carrying pole, so I brought medicine to Xingzhou at the educated youth dormitory. Qin Shiqing said firmly to the captain, "Captain, don't spare me any favors, punish me as I deserve, damn it all," the captain muttered, taking a slow drag from his pipe and exhaling smoke rings. Even though I could only see Qin Shiqing and He Shuilian from behind, I knew they were practically giddy with anticipation, waiting for the captain to start yelling. The captain did yell, just not at me. "Break it up, you two. Carrying on like this in broad daylight, have you no shame, Qin Shiqing? How could you distrust your own sister? Even an outsider like me knows what kind of person Manqing is. Has all the rice your Qin family fed you gone to waste? You're so blinded by appearances you've forgotten your own name, and you, He Shuilian, the nation sent you educated youth to the countryside to make something of yourselves. Not to be worshipped like some village deity. We won't tolerate your bourgeois decadence in our production brigade. People like you aren't welcome here. I'll be reporting your conduct to higher authorities." I already know what happened. He Shuilian owned a silver ring, said to be her parents' token of love. Later, this very ring became her own love token with Qin Shiqing. Now, the ring is lost. In her past life, He Shuilian had similarly reported this to the production brigade. By then, my reputation had been pretty much ruined by Qin Shiqing and He Shuilian. Many believed I stole the ring out of jealousy toward He Shuilian, deliberately trying to hurt her. Everyone took He Shuilian's side. Qin Shiqing forced me to bow an apology to He Shuilian, his hands pressing down on my shoulders. I was crying my eyes out. The squad leader had a stern face but a soft heart. Having watched me grow up, he still spoke up for me. After publicly scolding me a few times and promising to help He Shuilian find her ring, he managed to smooth things over. At that moment, I absolutely loathed Qin Shiqing. He Shuilian's ring was eventually found. She explained that it had accidentally slipped deep into her luggage and got buried under some clutter, but I waited till my dying day, and still her apology never came. I walked straight into the production brigade's headquarters. The brigade leader spotted me first and said, "Manqing, perfect timing. Some are accusing you of theft, which I don't believe. How should we handle this?" Qin Shiqing looked at me sternly. "Manqing, one must own up to mistakes, otherwise, you disgrace your parents' legacy as revolutionary martyrs." I shot Qin Shiqing a sidelong glance. He wasn't worth looking at directly. I told the brigade leader, "Just because I've been to the educated youth site doesn't prove I stole anything, but to clear my name, I'll let everyone search my room, on one condition. Since her belongings went missing at the youth site, that place should be searched too." The brigade leader nodded and went out to summon people. He Shuilian nestled in Qin Shiqing's arms, wearing a triumphant smirk. "That's the smirk of a successful scheme, but how could I possibly let her have her way? Want to move into my house, then get the hell out with Qin Shiqing." 8. There's quite a crowd gathered at my doorstep. Thanks to He Shuilian's loudmouth propaganda and Qin Shiqing's cooperation, everyone dropped their work, willing to forfeit their work points just to join the commotion. The murmurs swirled around, not all of them about me. Some were criticizing Qin Shiqing, saying he'd forgotten basic decency. After all, my parents raised him for years. Even if I was wrong, he shouldn't have taken sides against me. Qin Shiqing's face burned with shame upon hearing the news. The party secretary hurried back as well. Once everyone had gathered, the team leader selected a few men to conduct the search. The secretary warned them not to damage anything in my home. To avoid accusations of moving contraband, I remained standing at the front gate. After waiting over half an hour, the search party emerged empty-handed. He Shuilian looked incredulous while Qin Shiqing appeared somewhat embarrassed. He Shuilian turned to leave. I called out, "So we're following Comrade He to inspect the educated youth dorm now, right?" The brigade leader declared firmly, "Correct." He Shuilian shot me a venomous glare. I chuckled and trailed leisurely behind the crowd. The two female educated youths staying at my place gave me an almost imperceptible nod. I gave them a grateful smile. No matter how unwilling He Shuilian was, with so many onlookers around, she couldn't possibly weasel out of it. Qin Shiqing coaxed her, "Don't worry, we'll definitely help you find it." He Shuilian showed no sign of satisfaction whatsoever. When she saw me smiling at her, her expression turned even uglier, her eyes fixed rigidly on the dormitory interior. Her only intention was to frame me, nothing more. It took me a lifetime to finally understand this truth, but one thing I've never figured out: why did she harbor such intense malice toward me? The youth dormitory housed many people, making it difficult to conduct a proper search. The party secretary suggested, "A ring is such a small item, Comrade He might have misplaced it." Let's start by checking her belongings first. That shouldn't be a problem, right, comrade He? The secretary posed this question to He Shuilian with a smile, in full view of everyone, not wanting to offend the secretary. He Shuilian had no choice but to grit her teeth and agree. Within minutes, the brigade leader's wife found the ring hidden in the lining of He Shuilian's suitcase. She showed it to everyone before handing it to He Shuilian. The brigade leader asked, "Take a look, is this yours?" He Shuilian had previously flaunted this ring in front of the educated youth. Before she could answer, one of them blurted out, "That's the one." Left with no choice, He Shuilian had to admit it was the ring she'd lost. She heaved a sigh of relief, visibly unburdened by the recovered ring. The missing item was right therein. Her suitcase, exactly where it should be. The brigade leader scowled. "Next time, keep track of your own belongings. Don't think you can falsely accuse our good comrades just because you're from the city," the party secretary added. "Comrade Chen Manqing has submitted her party membership application. Given her outstanding performance, the organization has approved it." Thankfully the truth came out. Otherwise, He Shuilian, you'd be guilty of slandering a party member, which demonstrates distrust. In the party itself, the brigade secretary was always approachable, and he couldn't stand He Shuilian's nonsense. He Shuilian had no idea how much weight the secretary's words carried. Vicious and foolish by nature, she'd simply been blessed with uncanny luck in her previous life. Everything had gone her way. Only Chen Shiqing panicked. He urgently asked the secretary, "Why was it Chen Manqing's party membership application? Didn't I submit mine?" The brigade leader snapped, "How dare you even bring that up? The production brigade trusted you enough to make you deputy leader of Team 2, but have you fulfilled your responsibilities?" He Shuilian is a Black 7 category. The state sent her to the countryside to be re-educated and break her privileged habits, but you, instead of helping her improve, you've adopted her ways, abusing your position for special treatment and personal gain. This was the gravest accusation of our time, though in a few years He Shuilian's status would no longer be an issue. But Chen Shiqing couldn't foresee the future. Chen Shiqing turned deathly pale, convinced his life was over. He Shuilian stepped forward with visible courage and addressed the brigade leader, "Even as the team captain, you shouldn't talk about Chen Shiqing like that. It's my poor health that made him." Silence. Before He Shuilian could finish, Chen Shiqing snapped at her angrily. He Shuilian's eyes welled up with tears. "I was defending you, and you yell at me, you don't love me anymore." Chen Shiqing couldn't care less about love now. All he knew was that the woman before him had ruined his future. He glared at He Shuilian with murderous eyes. I chuckled. "Is this their so-called undying love? How fragile it turned out to be." 9. I couldn't help recalling my past life. Dragging my sickly body to the Gu residence, the entire family stood on the high steps looking down at me. Their scrutinizing gazes and contempt made me feel like some poor distant relative begging for favors, not their daughter-in-law. They openly criticized my shabby clothes and lack of sophistication. Shuilian said she's morally corrupt. Such trash isn't worthy of entering our Gu family. The Gu family made their fortune riding the wave of China's reform and opening up, so naturally they'd look down on a country girl like me. Yet barely a few years into the reforms, they'd already forgotten how my parents took Gu Shiqing in, shared my rations, and raised their son through hardship as the Gu family's future daughter-in-law. He Shuilian stood beside Gu Shiqing, their fingers tightly interlaced. My life hung in the balance while they reveled in marital bliss. Now, my rebirth has derailed their life paths. Would Gu Shiqing still fall for the capitalist heiress everyone avoids? Would He Shuilian still love a penniless Gu Shiqing who remains unrecognized by his family? The answer is undoubtedly no. I watched their dogfight with a cold sneer. The team leader and secretary couldn't stand it anymore and told everyone to get back to work. I raised my voice. "Hold on, everyone, I've got something to say." The secretary asked me gently, "Manqing, what else is there?" "I want to separate from Gu Shiqing." My voice rang out with conviction, instantly drawing everyone's attention. The team leader asked, "What do you mean by separation? Who's this Gu Shiqing?" The secretary asked sharply. "His parents are surnamed Gu. Are they still alive?" I nodded. Gu Shiqing shot me a startled, questioning look. The villagers only knew my parents had taken Gu Shiqing in, unaware of his true parentage. They simply assumed his parents had passed away. My parents kept his origin secret for his own protection, yet Gu Shiqing grew to resent them, blaming their secrecy for preventing him from reuniting with his wealthy biological parents. Later, he took out his resentment toward my parents on me. He completely forgot that he had already found his birth parents. He simply chose not to acknowledge them. The party secretary asked, "Who are his parents?" Where are they? Gu Shiqing's lips trembled as he shook his head at me. Manqing, Manqing. He couldn't find any more words, just staring at me pleadingly. The brigade leader, a native of the area, was prompted by the party secretary to ask. There was a woman named Fang Yan in our brigade who married a man surnamed Gu from the neighboring county. Her husband got arrested for profiteering and was sent for re-education. Fang Yan came back to her parents' place once when she was heavily pregnant, but never returned even after her parents passed away. Could they be his parents? I nodded and said, my brother was abandoned at our doorstep before my parents adopted him. There were no keepsakes left. My parents had suspected they might be his birth parents, but never dared to confirm it. For my brother's sake, they avoided making inquiries. But a while ago, when I went to town, I accidentally heard my brother calling someone dad. After asking around, I found out that man had been released from prison. Gu Shiqing's face turned ashen, then deathly pale. I stared at him coldly, thinking to myself, this is truly the end. Who would dare recommend the son of an ex-convict to become a worker peasant soldier student for university? My parents were martyrs renowned across the province. When I came of age, the provincial government granted me a university admission quota, allowing me to be recommended as a worker peasant soldier student. When Gu Shiqing asked for it, I yielded my spot to him. After graduating, Gu Shiqing was assigned a prestigious job, freeing him from toiling in the fields. Gu's father struck it rich unexpectedly, and a few years later, rode the wave of China's reform and opening up to build a family fortune. Gu Shiqing reunited with his parents and pulled strings to help He Shuolian return to the city, completely forgetting about me. His legally wedded wife still stuck in the countryside. Now that Shiqing's father's status as a convict has been exposed, he'll never pass the political vetting. College is out of the question. He Shuolian stood arms crossed, surveying us all with equal disdain. You short-sighted fools, Shiqing's father will become Shenzhen's wealthiest tycoon. How dare you look down on people? He Shuolian, that's enough, Gu Shiqing shouted. He Shuolian retorted anxiously, I'm just standing up for you. Gu Shiqing glared at her coldly, I don't need it. If you hadn't pushed me to reconcile with my parents, things wouldn't have come to this. Staggering back from Gu Shiqing's icy stare, He Shuolian squeezed through the crowd of onlookers with tearful indignation before running off. I can play the victim too, you know. Just thinking about the suffering from my past life brings real tears. No acting needed. Between sobs, I said, brother, I never wanted to bring up splitting the family, but maybe it's because we don't share the same blood. You always take others' side and wrong me. Gu Shiqing approached me and said gently, Manqing, give me one more chance, won't you? I feigned confusion as I looked at him. What do you mean, Manqing? I didn't mean to give you the cold shoulder. I was just worried seeing you associate with backward elements like in Xingzhou. My concern got the better of me. This would never happen after we're married. I couldn't suppress a derisive laugh. The party secretary wrapped his arms around the brigade leader's waist, barely preventing him from kicking Gu Shiqing. Damn it. Have some decency. I'm still here. The old Chen couple gave their lives for this village, and their daughter is the village's daughter. She's my own flesh and blood. As long as I'm breathing, you won't lay a finger on Manqing. The surrounding villagers murmured in agreement. I turned to Gu Shiqing and said, there's nothing improper between Xingzhou and me, whether you believe it or not. Don't you dare slander people with that filthy mouth of yours. No sooner had I spoken than I spotted Xingzhou emerging from the crowd of onlookers. He smiled faintly, with an inexplicable loneliness in his expression. 10. Regarding the issues between Gu Shiqing and He Shuolian, Gu's problems were more severe. The production brigade even held a special meeting to discuss whether he should stay or leave. First, Gu Shiqing was stripped of his proud position as deputy leader of Team 2, as the brigade captain put it. Empowering someone like him would be utterly irresponsible toward the other team members. No one objected, not even those who had once benefited from Gu Shiqing's favors, because what he did for He Shuolian went way too far. Some said he'd lost his mind. No one pulls strings for their own people that blatantly, as if everyone else were blind. Secondly, the team also sent someone to verify Gu Shiqing's identity. Gu Shiqing was indeed the infant the brigade chief had mentioned. In other words, he truly was the son of that convict sent to labor reform in our era. Political stance and family background determined everything. Gu Shiqing's future was effectively ruined. Without splitting households, The brigade decided to transfer his residency registration back to his biological father's family, except there was an unexpected twist. Gu Shiqing's mother had long since remarried. The wealthy father Gu Shiqing was persuaded by He Shuilian to acknowledge turned out to be a freshly released convict. He Shuilian painted a rosy future for Gu Shiqing if they acknowledged each other now and served him well. All the family fortune would be his when the man prospered. They had such beautiful dreams. Little did they know, Gu Shiqing's biological father suddenly changed his mind and refused to acknowledge his own son. And Xingzhou told me this story he'd heard at the Educated Youth Outpost as if it were some joke. I actually laughed out loud, though honestly, it's understandable. This is what they call, like father, like son. The next generation inheriting the inherent pettiness and selfishness of their predecessors. Gu Shiqing probably never considered that in his past life, had he not held a respectable city job or possessed a prestigious university degree, why would they have acknowledged him at all? When He Shuilian took Gu Shiqing to reunite with his relatives, the man had just been released with nothing to his name, suddenly presented with the son of a deputy production brigade leader. Why pass up such an opportunity? But now that Gu Shiqing's in trouble, the moment he became a liability rather than an asset, abandonment was inevitable. Gu Shiqing used to treat me decently, but when He Shuilian, who's prettier and better at coaxing people, showed up, he made that choice too. Gu Shiqing is no longer part of our production team. He Shuilian's issue isn't major, but it's trickier to handle. For falsely accusing me, a simple, sorry, my mistake, from her would suffice. There was only superficial ambiguity between her and Gu Shiqing, with no actual relationship to warrant disciplinary action. The party secretary suggested to the brigade captain, falsely accusing a good comrade reflects ideological shortcomings. Since we can't resolve this properly, we should report truthfully to the commune and await their instructions. Comrade Manqing mustn't be wronged. Unfair handling of this matter would demoralize the rest of the team. The brigade captain agreed. Before the commune's decision arrived, He Shuilian went missing. 11. The brigade leader and party secretary questioned everyone at the Educated Youth Outpost, but no one knew where she'd gone. After what happened, people avoided He Shuilian like the plague, afraid misfortune would rub off on them, so genuinely nobody knew her whereabouts. I suspect there's probably one person who knows where she went. Following the brigade leader and party secretary, and Xingzhou, and I tracked down Gu Shiqing. I was stunned by the sight before me. In a dilapidated thatched hut, Gu Shiqing lay unkempt on a straw mat, casually picking his teeth with a stalk of hay while reeking of alcohol. I took an involuntary step back in disbelief, and Xingzhou stepped forward and positioned himself protectively in front of me. The brigade leader asked, "Do you know where He Shuilian went?" Gu Shiqing gave us a lazy glance, particularly eyeing me who was being shielded by an Xingzhou behind him, and sneered, "Who knows? She said she was going home, headed into the mountains." The brigade leader and the party secretary exchanged glances. The mountains around here may not stretch for thousands of miles, but they're deep and treacherous, with wolves and other wild beasts roaming about. Only groups of adults dare venture in. That's where my father had the accident that ultimately took his life. I can't stand He Shuilian, but a life is still a life. The team leader and secretary immediately turned to leave, probably to mobilize a rescue team for the remote mountains. I glared at Gu Shiqing in fury. "You claim to love her, yet you just let her walk to her death." Gu Shiqing cast me a patronizing glance. "Like it? Is affection some kind of rare treasure? I used to like you too, remember? Do you still like me now?" I looked at him with disappointment. The old Gu Shiqing was ambitiously driven by self-interest, yet at least he maintained a positive outlook. Now he's slumped like hopeless, worthless sludge. And Xingzhou, unwilling to let me get entangled with Gu Shiqing again, whispered, "The captain's already sent people to search. Shall we go see if we can help?" I nodded and left with Xingzhou without a backward glance at the man collapsed on the bed. During the critical harvest period, the team couldn't spare that many able-bodied workers. I volunteered without hesitation. "I'll go. My father taught me about the mountain terrain and even sketched a basic map. Comrade and Xingzhou is currently helping make additional copies that we'll distribute later." The party secretary nodded. "With these maps, we can search deeper areas and improve our chances of finding them." "You've done well, Manqing, but as a young woman, you shouldn't go. It's too dangerous." "I'm definitely going. When it comes to manual labor, I can work just as hard as the male team members. Besides, us women are more meticulous. Don't underestimate us female comrades." And Xingzhou stepped out of the house holding some papers and said upon hearing me, "I'll go with Comrade Manqing." Before the party secretary could object, and Xingzhou playfully mimicked my tone, Don't underestimate us educated youths, the brigade leader said. This isn't child's play, and Xingzhou offered a plausible excuse. Comrade He Shuilian and I come from similar family backgrounds. If we find her, I could have a talk with her and provide some ideological guidance. The brigade leader and party secretary were convinced, but I wasn't buying it, and Xingzhou clearly couldn't stand He Shuilian. Many years later, and Xingzhou revealed a secret to me. He Shuilian possessed a peculiar book, though he'd discarded it. He feared the strange artifacts she carried might endanger me. That's why he insisted on joining the search team back then and demanded to be paired with me. 12. We entered the mountains with ample provisions and water. After 3 days and 2 nights, with our supplies exhausted, we still hadn't found He Shuilian. The captain ordered us to turn back. We took the main road on our return for safety. We passed a peculiar mountainside devoid of greenery, its surface displaying black and brown hues with metallic sheen under sunlight. Noticing my gaze, the captain hesitated before saying, "Manqing, that's where your father fell. My father used to lead teams searching for iron or to make steel for our village, and sacrificed his life to save others. Only today did I learn that the accident happened deep in these remote mountains." The crowd looked at me with pity in their eyes. In that instant, tears streamed down my face. I asked the squad leader, "Can I take a closer look?" The squad leader agreed and led the others ahead, saying they'd rest up front and told me not to rush, and Xingzhou followed at a discreet distance behind me. Remembering what happened both in my past life and during this period, an overwhelming sense of bitterness welled up in my heart. If my parents were still here, maybe Gu Shiqing wouldn't dare to bully me like this. I collapsed to my knees, wailing uncontrollably as the wind howled through the mountains. "Mourning with me," I cried until I was hiccuping. Yet the tears kept flowing like an endless stream. And Xingzhou approached. He handed me a handkerchief. Thinking it was meant to dry my tears, I took it only to find a beautiful stone wrapped inside. "Keep it as a memento, consider it a gift from your father." The tears I'd nearly held back came flooding again at Xingzhou's words. Realizing his misstep, and Xingzhou paced around me in helpless agitation. After a long pause, he seemed to reach some decision, crouching beside me and humming softly, "Left home to save my love so true, who knew I'd top the royal exam through, the crimson robe I wear with pride, palace blossoms deck my hat." Oh, what a sight! The fresh, melodious singing captivated me, and my tears stopped unbidden. Noticing I'd ceased crying, and Xingzhou explained, "This is an aria from Huang Mei Opera's The Female Royal Son-in-Law." His voice carried endless longing. "My mother was a Huang Mei Opera singer in the troupe. She had a beautiful voice and met my father through performing. They married and had me. After mother passed, father developed heart trouble from grief and was sent to a cadre school. Worried for him, I deliberately chose to become an educated youth here, hoping I might see him again someday. Comrade Manqing, I'm not telling you this for pity. I just want you to know, as long as we live, hope endures. Like this band Huang Mei Opera, though forbidden on stage, its melodies live in my memory, and others remember too. That's hope." He entrusted me with his most private sorrow. While I sympathized with his plight, his story kindled quiet determination in me and admiration for his resilience. "One day, our nation will resonate with such opera melodies again. When that day comes, we'll sing out loud all the emotions this muted era has suppressed." Will that day ever come? I asked myself, and Xingzhou looked at me with a knowing smile. I gave myself a firm answer, "It will come true." And Xingzhou said, "My name Xingzhou comes from the saying learning is like sailing against the current. You either advance or retreat. Even in these circumstances, my father encourages me to keep studying hard. You should do the same, work hard, and everything will get better." Yes, everything will get better. I choose to believe in Xingzhou, and even more so in the resilience of our nation. Our motherland fought her way out of desperation against all odds, and our generation will widen and pave this path further. The commune mobilized a large search party for He Shuilian, but to no avail. No trace of her was found in He Shuilian's hometown either, yet everyone still believed she'd fled back home. After all, some educated youths genuinely couldn't endure the hardships and escaped back to the cities, but news of her gradually faded from memory. People had more pressing matters to attend to. The same went for me. The party secretary told me, "Manqing, we've been allocated a university admission slot. After discussion, the team decided to recommend you. Do you agree?" I had no reason to refuse. As the school start date approached, I packed my bags and prepared to leave, and Xingzhou watched me depart. From the crossroads I kept looking back at him, and at this land I'll be back. As a farmer's child, I must return to the soil that nurtured my ancestors. Like them, I'll devote everything I have to this land. Extra Chapter 1, Male Leads POV. I still remember that day decades ago when she said there was nothing between Xingzhou and me. There were many things Manqing didn't understand. What she didn't understand was that between her and me, it was never innocent. Because I loved her, I fell for her. The moment I laid eyes on her, to be precise, I was already intrigued by her before we even met, but back then, I didn't realize how disproportionately my gaze lingered on her. Then came the moment she handed me medicine, our palms touched, and something exploded in my mind, dazzling like a meteor outshining fireworks. Every meeting between us has been my own private celebration. The girl was beautiful yet oblivious. Fortunately, there's still plenty of time ahead. The book says my first encounter with Chen Manqing happened at the village entrance. The spoiled girl threw a little tantrum after her brother refused to give her the white rabbit candy she demanded. Her beauty made everyone present overlook her unreasonable behavior, but in truth, we first met working in the fields. She was an incredibly hard-working girl, with calluses thicker than her brother's. How could someone like this possibly have been spoiled growing up? So I seized the opportunity and stole He Shuilian's book. That book held He Shuilian's secret. All along the way, she kept furtively flipping through its pages. Strangely, everyone around her turned a blind eye to her behavior. No one even asked what that book was about. I thought of the ruined classics on our bookshelf, my father's professional volumes. Something felt off, so I decided to sneak a peek at the book's contents. An utterly absurd romance novel. I hadn't even finished reading when this conclusion became obvious. The male lead is Gu Shiqing, while the female protagonist is He Shuilian. Gu Shiqing is the long-lost heir of a tycoon, and He Shuilian is a time traveler from 50 years in the future. They fell in love at first sight, completely smitten with each other. The only obstacle between them was the male lead's sister, Chen Manqing. Chen Manqing had feelings for her adoptive brother Gu Shiqing, but he only saw her as a sister. The book mentions that Gu Shiqing reluctantly married Chen Manqing out of pity, yet still flirted with He Shuilian. Gu Shiqing married Chen Manqing out of obligation, but it was He Shuilian who truly held his heart. I was so furious I could only laugh bitterly. Marrying without love, got her pregnant, then made her toil in the fields even when heavily pregnant, until she miscarried. The book claims Chen Manqing's tragedy stemmed from her spoiled upbringing, calling it a self-inflicted fate. I saw no trace of spoiling in her demeanor. Down-to-earth simplicity defines her true nature. As I leafed through the book again, I was astonished to find the beginning had changed. It now mirrored everything I'd truly experienced. I frantically turned the pages, only to find blank sheet after blank sheet. I cannot foresee our future. My pause grew longer on that blank page, where bold words gradually emerged. Do you wish to change your destiny? Then follow the instructions and complete the corresponding tasks. This book will make you the master of this world. I think I'm beginning to understand. I threw that damned book into the cesspit. Gu Shiqing and He Shuilian were merely puppets of this book. Their figures were as lifeless as taxidermy specimens in a museum. Chen Manqing and I will never become people like that. I adore the radiance that shines from Chen Manqing with all my heart. Like spring blooming across the countryside, everyone follows the natural flow of the story, yet I choose to love you against the current of fate. Male leads POV side story 2. My dearest Manqing, I hope this letter finds you well. How is your research progressing? All is well on my end. I coughed for a while, my hands trembling slightly. I pushed the letter paper aside, afraid I might cough up blood and stain it. The medical staff anxiously crowded around the hospital bed, pushing the assistants out of the way. Mr. N, are you all right? What's bothering you? I shook my head slightly, took a moment to steady myself, and only when my hands stopped trembling did I continue writing. That year during the double cropping season, you shouted, women hold up half the sky in the fields, working harder than anyone else. Manqing, I'd agree with anything you say without hesitation, but this time, I think you're wrong. You're holding up our entire sky. After finishing the letter, I asked them for more paper. Let me write a few more letters, mail them out monthly so Manqing will think I'm still alive. It'll spare her grief a little longer. The medical staff choked up as they urged me, Mr. N, your condition is deteriorating, you should rest now. My assistant turned her head away, unable to meet my gaze, tears glistening in the corners of her eyes. I sensed something was wrong. My heart clenched instantly as I asked her, what happened to Manqing? Tell me the truth. The assistant's voice trembled with tears. Professor Chen, she passed away last night. My hand went limp and dropped onto the blanket. How could this be? I just spoke with her a month ago. Professor Chen collapsed in the lab 3 months ago. She was barely revived. The doctors said her liver had sustained severe damage from prolonged exposure to pesticides during her research. She fought so bravely, holding on for so long. The assistant broke down in tears as she spoke. She was my student. and whenever she visited our home, Manching would prepare all sorts of delicious dishes for her, yet the assistant never once called Manching professor's wife, she said. Professor Chen was a remarkable woman in her own right, not someone's appendage. How could someone as extraordinary as Manching be gone just like that? That year, when our brigade received the province's sole university admission quota, it went to Manching without question. Her parents, one died rescuing teammates during a perilous iron ore expedition for the village's steel production, the other perished in flash floods after broadcasting evacuation warnings, leaving only final words before the waters engulfed the station. After careful deliberation, Manching chose to major in pesticide science. With only a middle school education, Manching found herself suddenly immersed in university-level studies. In her letters to me, she described her days as both grueling and fulfilling. It took her tremendous effort just to keep pace with her classmates, yet she had no regrets. Comrade Xingzhou, I was recommended for university admission. There's a slogan on campus: the people sent me to college, and I study to serve the people. I must work harder to contribute to society sooner, I replied. Comrade Manching, your dedication truly moves me. Wishing you academic success later. When the National College entrance exams resumed, I also pursued agricultural studies. We still corresponded frequently, though we dropped the comrade from our salutations because we were together, but our careers kept us apart most of the time. The harsh hospital lights blurred through my tears as I slowly collapsed onto the bed. The sounds of mourning grew faint in my ears. Manching, I'm here. Story 2. I died on the delivery table, hemorrhaged before I could even hold my baby. As I drew my last breath, my husband, the brilliant surgeon, was comforting his childhood sweetheart. When I opened my eyes again, I'd returned to the day before childbirth. My husband came home from his studies covered in travel dust, carrying the scent of snowflakes and another woman's perfume. I smiled, choosing not to expose his clumsy lie this time. I'll bring our child safely into this world, but the father won't be part of the picture. 1. I was reborn 3 hours after death. The moment consciousness returned, the excruciating pain of torn birth canals and ebbing life still felt seared into my bones. I jolted upright in bed, gasping for air, my maternity dress soaked through with cold sweat. Outside, the north wind howled through the window frames, making them creak. The wall calendar clearly showed December 4th, 1983. I'd come back, returned to the day before I bled to death. A sharp hiss escaped my lips as the familiar cramping pain radiated through my lower abdomen, my hands instinctively flying to cradle my belly. My baby was still there, the son I'd fought tooth and nail to protect in my past life, the child I never got to hold even as I drew my last breath. Xiao Lan, you're awake. Is your stomach bothering you? Mother-in-law Zhou Shouyun walked in carrying a steaming bowl of egg custard, her brows furrowed with worry. That Chang Feng. Of all times to go off to some useless training right when you're about to give birth. It's been days without so much as a phone call. My eyes grew moist as I looked at her. In my past life, it was this kind mother-in-law who defied everyone's objections and insisted on bringing my son back to the Gu family, keeping him out of that scheming Su Wan's clutches. Little did she know, her precious son Gu Changfeng wasn't studying at all at that moment. He was keeping vigil at the hospital, accompanying his childhood sweetheart Su Wan, who had congenital heart disease. Mom, I'm fine. I shook my head and took the steamed egg custard. The warmth spreading through my fingertips felt so real it brought tears to my eyes. Suppressing the surge of emotions, I kept my voice steady. Mom, is Chang Feng coming back soon? The moment I spoke, familiar footsteps echoed from outside the door. Gu Changfeng pushed the door open, still carrying the chill from outside. His handsome features couldn't conceal his exhaustion. Seeing me, he paused briefly before striding over. Why are you up? Your due date's just around the corner. Don't move around too much. His voice remained as deep and pleasant as ever, yet what caught my attention was the faint trace of vanishing cream lingering around his collar. It was Su Wan's favorite brand, the only one of its kind in the entire compound. In my past life, I'd been completely fooled by that scent and the excuse, she's ill, you're back. I looked up and gave him a weak smile. I thought you'd be spending New Year's elsewhere. The barb in those words wasn't lost on Zhou Shouyun. Her sharp eyes raked over her son. Finished your training? Old Zhang told me the hospital program runs through the day after tomorrow. Where exactly have you been? Gu Chongfeng's gaze faltered, his fingers pausing at his collar button. An urgent matter came up. I got leave to return early. Mom, Xiaolan, go ahead with dinner. I need to step out briefly. That phrase again, that's exactly what he said in my past life. Then he left. And the next thing I knew, I was bleeding to death on the Delivery bed. Watching him scramble to get away sent chills down my spine. Fine, saves me the trouble of arguing. I remained silent, just bowing my head quietly as I stirred the egg custard in the bowl with my spoon. A scalding tear suddenly dropped into the bowl, spreading faint ripples across the surface. "Oh, you silly child." Zhou Shouyun couldn't take it anymore and grabbed his arm. "Xiaolan's this far along in her pregnancy. What could possibly be more urgent than your wife giving birth? Even if the sky were falling, it'd have to wait till tomorrow. Tonight, you're not going anywhere, Mom." Gu Chongfeng's brow furrowed deeper. "It's not what you think, Suwan's situation, it's urgent." Suwan, always Suwan." Zhou Shouyun's temper flared up instantly. "Who is she to you? However urgent her situation is, can it possibly compare to your wife giving birth? Gu Chongfeng, mark my words. If you dare step out of this house today, you're no longer my son." The uncharacteristic steal in my mother-in-law's tone was something I'd never witnessed in my past life. Perhaps my vulnerability had awakened her protective instincts. Gu Chongfeng froze at the rebuke, his expression darkening. He shot me a reproachful glance, as if blaming me for speaking out of turn. I ignored him, just staring stubbornly with pleading eyes. "Chongfeng, don't go, I'm scared." My voice came out barely above a whisper, trembling perfectly to convey a pregnant woman's fear and helplessness. This was his final chance. He stared at me with deep furrows between his brows, remaining silent for what felt like an eternity. The air in the room grew thick with tension. I could even hear my own heart pounding like a war drum. Finally, as if reaching some resolution, the tension in his forehead eased slightly. He walked over and patted my head, but his gesture felt half-hearted. "Don't overthink it, I'll be back soon." His tone softened, yet there wasn't the slightest intention to stay. "Suwan, she's an orphan and has been frail since childhood. I need to check on her." Here we go again. It's always Suwan who's the most pitiful, Suwan who matters most. The last ember of hope in my heart died out completely the moment he turned away. All expression vanished from my face, my gaze turning as cold as the winter frost outside. Zhou Shouyun trembled with rage, pointing at his retreating figure and cursing. "You good-for-nothing fool, you'll live to regret this." Gu Chongfeng's footsteps faltered for just a moment before he vanished into the night without looking back. The moment the door slammed shut, I collapsed as a sharp, twisting pain shot through my abdomen. "It's happening a full 6 hours earlier than last time, Mom." I clutched Zhou Shouyun's hand as beads of sweat instantly formed on my forehead. I think I'm going into labor. Take me to City People's Hospital." I deliberately emphasized the words People's Hospital. "What?" Zhou Shouyun panicked. "The People's Hospital? Nonsense. The maternity ward at Central Hospital is far superior. I'll call Uncle Zhang right now to arrange a car." "No." I gripped her hand so tightly my nails nearly drew blood. "Mom, I don't trust Central Hospital. I don't trust Suwan's uncle." Suwan's uncle happened to be the head of Central Hospital's obstetrics department in my past life. It was him who delayed my critical treatment during hemorrhagic shock, citing lack of family consent as justification in this lifetime. I'll never entrust my life to their hands again. My gaze turned resolute, leaving no room for doubt. Zhou Shouyun finally grasped the gravity of the situation as she took in my ashen face and terror-stricken eyes. She stopped arguing, gritted her teeth and said, "Fine, we'll go to People's Hospital. I'll call a cab right now." Outside the window, the snowstorm grew fiercer. I knew the real battle had just begun. This time, I'd fight my way out, for myself and my child. 02. The road to City People's Hospital proved far more treacherous than anticipated, with blizzards blocking the roads. The rickshaw kept skidding through the snow, every jolt sent searing pain radiating through my lower abdomen. Zhou Shouyun stood by, frantic with sweat pouring down her face as she alternated between cursing Gu Chongfeng and the heavens above. I clenched my teeth, swallowing every whimper of pain. This pain is nothing compared to a fraction of what I endured in my past life at the hospital. The doctor examined me and immediately wheeled me into the delivery room. "It's an emergency. The baby must be delivered immediately. Family members, the mother is at risk of severe hemorrhage. Prepare yourselves mentally and sign these consent forms first." A nurse rushed out holding paperwork. "I'll sign." Without a moment's hesitation, Zhou Shouyun grabbed the pen and scrawled her name in the family member column. Lying on the cold delivery table, I felt warmth flood my chest at my mother-in-law's decisive voice outside the door. In my past life at the General Hospital, Suwan's uncle had extended that same form, but beyond those doors, there'd been only deafening silence. Gu Chongfeng's phone remained persistently unreachable. "Push, I see the crown." give me one more big push. The midwife's voice rang in my ears. I gasped desperately, channeling every ounce of my strength into this moment. Flashing through my mind was my son's faint yet tenacious cry from our past life. My child, mommy's coming, wah. A piercing newborn cry shattered the delivery room's silence. Exhaustion overwhelmed me as tears instantly blurred my vision. Congratulations, it's a healthy baby boy, 6 kilograms. The nurse cleaned the baby and brought him to me, tiny and wrinkled, his eyes squeezed shut while his mouth stretched wide open, wailing with surprising vigor. My son, with trembling hands, I gently touched his cheek, warm and soft. Hush now, sweetheart, mommy's here. This lifetime, I finally get to hold you. I named our child Lin Wanan. He carries my surname Lin. May his life be blessed with peace. Dawn was breaking when I stepped out of the delivery room. Zhou Shouyun cradled the baby, her crow's feet crinkling with joy. Spotting me, she hurried over and gently tucked in my blanket. Xiaolan, you've worked so hard. The Gu family has an heir now. Look how this little one's nose and mouth resemble Changfeng when he was a baby. I smiled faintly, offering no reply. Does it look similar? I don't think so. Gu Changfeng arrived shortly after we returned to the hospital room. He looked weary with dark circles under his eyes. The moment he saw me and the child, his shoulders visibly relaxed, then his face flickered with a complex mix of guilt and joy. Xiaolan, you've had a rough time. He approached the bedside and reached out to touch me, but I turned away to avoid his hand. His hand froze mid-air. Lingering awkwardly, Zhou Shouyun tightened her grip around the child with a frosty expression, sneering, well, look who decided to come back. I thought your precious urgent matter, childhood sweetheart, would need your attention forever. Gu Changfeng flushed and paled alternately. Mom, don't talk nonsense. Last night, there was an emergency. Emergency? Must be something earth-shattering if it's more urgent than your wife giving birth. Zhou Shouyun pressed on relentlessly. What exactly happened to Suan? Did her heart condition flare up again, or is she on death's doorstep? Is this really worth abandoning your wife and newborn? Gu Changfeng choked on his words before finally forcing out, she just had a bit of a scare. Her nerves are rattled. A scare. Zhou Shouyun's voice suddenly rose to a shrill pitch, drawing stares from neighboring hospital beds. She gets a little scared, and you rush over to stay the whole night. But when my daughter-in-law was writhing in agony on the delivery bed, where were you? Gu Changfeng, do you even care about this family anymore? Gu Changfeng was thoroughly scolded, his handsome face flushing beet red. He looked at me pleadingly, hoping I'd speak up for him. I pretended not to notice, simply gazing down at Anan in my arms, tracing the delicate contours of his tiny face with my finger. A faint smile played on my lips, gentle yet distant, unlike anything he'd ever seen before. For the first time, I neither defended him nor offered him an easy way out. The shock and confusion in his eyes were unmistakable. Perhaps in his mind, Lin Lan, was always meant to be that perpetually gentle, understanding accessory, the one who'd forever put him first. The air in the hospital room hung heavy with tension. Then a honeyed voice shattered the silence. Brother Changfeng. Suan appeared timidly at the doorway, clad in a pristine white dress and clutching a thermal flask. The tense atmosphere in the ward, especially Aunt Zhou Shouyun's thunderous expression, made her shrink back in fear, her eyes instantly welling up with tears. Aunt Shouyun, I heard Lan Lan had her baby, so I made some chicken soup to help her recover. I didn't mean anything by it. Her voice was sugary soft, dripping with exaggerated victimhood. I watched her without the slightest sympathy. If anything, it was almost laughable. Look who decided to show up in my past life. She pulled the same stunt, using visiting as an excuse to mark her territory when I was at my weakest after childbirth. Zhou Shouyun was fuming at the sight of her, about to explode, but I spoke first. Sister Suan, you're here. Please, have a seat. I smiled at her with practiced ease, my tone deceptively light. You've had it rough enough already. Don't trouble yourself over me when you're not well. I deliberately emphasized the words not well with pointed clarity. Suwan's face paled momentarily before she reassumed that delicate, wounded dove expression. Lanjia, how could you say such things? We're family after all. Even as she spoke, her gaze involuntarily flickered toward Gu Changfeng, the naked longing and possessiveness in her eyes impossible to miss. I sneered inwardly. One big happy family. Today I'll show you who's really in charge here. Yes, one big happy family. I nodded and gently passed Anan in my arms to Zhou Shouyun. Mom, could you hold Anan for a while? I'm feeling a bit tired. Then I turned to Gu Changfeng, speaking in a tone that was ostensibly consultative yet brooked no argument. Changfeng, Suan's constitution is delicate. You should escort her home. Hospitals are full of germs. We wouldn't want her catching anything, mother's taking good care of me. Here, every word I said was perfectly reasonable, yet each carried subtle barbs that pricked at both Changfeng and Suan. When I cited her frailty as reason for hastening her departure, it was all for her own good. When I said Mom could take care of me and I didn't need him, I was actually pushing him away. Gu Changfeng looked at me with complicated emotions in his eyes. It was probably the first time he'd heard such a considerate yet distant remark from his usually submissive wife, Xiaolan. Brother Changfeng. Suan quickly grabbed the hem of Gu Changfeng's sleeve, her voice trembling with tears. Did I do something wrong to upset Sister Lanlan? If it's because of me, I'll leave right now. She made a show of leaving, yet her feet seemed rooted to the ground, taking 3 lingering glances back at Changfeng, her eyes pleading for him to stop her. This play hard to get act. I'd grown tired of it in my past life. I leaned against the headboard, silent, just watching their performance unfold. My mother-in-law Zhou Shouyun glared at Su Wan with the hatred of a sworn enemy. Leave? Then why don't you just go? She pointed at the door and snapped. This humble home can't accommodate someone as grand as you. Take your damn soup and get out. Su Wan trembled from this shouting, tears streaming down her face like scattered pearls, a picture of delicate sorrow. Gu Changfeng finally couldn't take it anymore. Shielding Su Wan behind him, he snapped at his mother. Enough. She meant well. Zhou Shouyun let out a bitter laugh. What good could she possibly intend? This is a weasel offering New Year's greetings to a chicken. Gu Changfeng, if you side with her today, don't call me mom ever again. The mother and son were locked in a tense standoff, the hospital room thick with hostility you could cut with a knife. Just then, I suddenly clutched my stomach and let out a pained groan. Ouch, my stomach hurts so bad. Doctor, my shout instantly drew everyone's attention. Zhou Shouyun immediately abandoned the argument and rushed to my bedside in a panic. Xiaolan, what's wrong? Did your wound reopen? Gu Changfeng also panicked and tried to approach, but Zhou Shouyun's sharp get out sent him retreating, grimacing in pain and gasping for breath. I weakly pointed at the door and said to the stunned Su Wan, little Su Wan, you should leave. Seeing you makes my chest feel tight, and now my stomach hurts too. Though I spoke softly, my voice carried clearly to everyone in the silent hospital room. Su Wan's face turned deathly pale in an instant. 3. Gu Changfeng practically dragged Su Wan out of the ward. Her frail, near-fainting state only hardened Gu Changfeng's resolve as he walked away. Zhou Shouyun spat in their direction and cursed. The nerve, who do they think Xiao Lan is? Some pushover they can bully at will. She turned and saw me still clutching my stomach with a pained expression. Xiao Lan, does it still hurt? She asked anxiously. Should I call a doctor? I withdrew my hand, the grimace fading from my face. Mom, I'm fine, just had a bit of indigestion. Zhou Shouyun's tense expression instantly softened before she finally burst into laughter. She tapped my forehead with a mix of affection and amusement. You little rascal, you scared me half to death. But, well played. This was the first time I'd formed a genuine alliance with my mother-in-law, one willing to charge ahead on the front lines, the other delivering precise strikes from the rear. Gu Changfeng disappeared again for 2 whole days after leaving. This time I'm enjoying the peace and quiet, recuperating in the hospital without a care. Zhou Shouyun prepares delicious meals for me daily, Crucian carp soup, pork trotter stew, millet congee. The whole ward is filled with mouth-watering aromas, and N is such a good baby, eating and sleeping in perfect rhythm, with cries more vigorous than other newborns. My daily routine mostly consists of cradling him while humming the lullabies I heard as a child. I never imagined life without Gu Changfeng could feel so peaceful and fulfilling. Gu Changfeng finally showed up on my discharge day. He'd grown thinner, with stubble shadowing his jaw, his eyes brimming with exhaustion and inner turmoil. Wordlessly taking the bundle from Zhou Shouyun's hands, he reached for the child next, holding it in close. I turned away. Let me do it. You're not used to holding babies. My tone was flat, betraying no emotion. His outstretched hand froze midair once more. The hurt in his eyes cut deeper this time than before. The 3 of them walked home in complete silence. The moment I pushed open the door, the sharp scent of disinfectant hit me. The house was spotless. Even the book I'd left on the nightstand had been moved. My brows furrowed involuntarily. Zhou Shouyun caught the smell too and complained irritably. Who's spraying so much disinfectant in our house? It's choking. Don't they know there's a new mother and baby here? Gu Changfeng shifted uncomfortably as he explained. It was Su Wan who came to help clean. She said she was worried about germs being bad for the baby. Her. Zhou Shouyun let out a scornful laugh. She's the real infection here. Now I see it clearly. this woman's trying to steal my place. Without a word, I walked straight into the bedroom and gently laid in on the bed. Then, I began checking my belongings. Just as I feared, the small wooden box beneath my pillow had vanished. That box contained my entire life savings. Inside were 50 yuan my mother secretly slipped me at my wedding, plus the 30-some yuan I'd scrimped and saved these past 2 years. It wasn't much, but it was everything I had, the foundation for the new life I planned to build within. And my heart sank inch by inch. Chong Feng. I stepped out of the bedroom, my voice icy cold. Where's the wooden box under my pillow? Gu Chongfeng was pouring water when he heard me, his hand jerked, splashing scalding water that made him hiss in pain. What wooden box? He averted his gaze, refusing to meet my eyes. Stop pretending. My patience ran out. There was 83.50 in there, all the money I had. Did Suan take it? Xiaolan, don't jump to conclusions. He set down the water glass, trying to placate me. Suan isn't that kind of person. She said the space under your pillow was too messy, so she tidied it up for you. Maybe she put it somewhere else. Really? I stepped right up to him, locking eyes with him. Then do me a favor, call her over right now so we can settle this face to face. Let's see whether she put it somewhere else or if her sticky fingers put it straight into her own pocket. My aggressive stance sent Gu Chongfeng into complete panic. He knew Suan's character all too well, and that my money had most likely wandered off with her. Poor and orphaned, Suan lived beyond her means and was constantly borrowing money from him. Xiaolan, please let me explain. He grabbed my hand, desperation creeping into his voice. About the money, I'll find a way to pay you back. Suan, she didn't mean any harm, just let it go. Okay, making a scene won't do anyone any good, won't do anyone any good. I shook off his hand, trembling with rage. Are you worried about tarnishing your reputation, or that childhood sweetheart of yours? Gu Chongfeng, that was 3 years' worth of savings, money I'd set aside for my son's formula, for fabric to make his clothes, and you just expect me to let it slide? It's barely 80 bucks, cornered. He raised his voice. I'll pay you double next month when my stipend comes. Is this petty cash really worth making such a scene over? Humph. I laughed coldly. Yeah, it's just over 80 bucks for a promising doctor like him. That's pocket change. But to me, Lin Lan, that's my livelihood at this moment. Not a shred of marital affection remains between us. Gu Chongfeng, I said, looking him straight in the eye. I'll find a way to get the money back myself, but I can't spend another single day in this house. Let's get a divorce. The moment I clearly uttered the word divorce, both Gu Chongfeng and Zhou Shuyun, who had just stepped out of the kitchen, froze in shock. In those days, divorce was as earth-shattering as an 8.0 magnitude earthquake. The color drained from Gu Chongfeng's face in an instant. He looked as if he'd just heard the most absurd fairy tale. Lin Lan, do you have any idea what you're saying? I know exactly what I'm saying. I straightened my back, my gaze unwavering with unprecedented determination. I want a divorce, right now, immediately. My composure carries more power than any hysterical argument. He stared at me as if seeing me for the first time, his shock gradually giving way to panic. I forbid it, he nearly shouted. I won't allow this. This isn't your decision to make, I said, picking up an from the bed before turning to leave. Where do you think you're going? He grabbed my arm with a grip so tight it felt like my bones would snap. Let go. I struggled against his hold and then burst into terrified wails, frightened by our shouting match. Stop this right now. Zhou Shuyun finally snapped into action, shoving Gu Chongfeng aside and shielding both me and the child behind her. She looked at her out-of-control son, her face etched with disappointment. Gu Chongfeng, you've let me down terribly. With red-rimmed eyes and a trembling voice, she said, Xiaolan just gave birth, and this is how you treat her. Are you even a man? Then she turned to me, took my hand, and spoke with unprecedented solemnity. Xiaolan, I stand with you. Let's end this marriage. We'll raise the child ourselves. No need to rely on that heartless man. Her words struck Gu Chongfeng like a thunderbolt, leaving him utterly stunned. He probably never imagined in his wildest dreams that his own mother, who'd always defended him, would take my side and support her rebellious daughter-in-law. He stared at us like a cornered beast, the panic in his eyes now impossible to conceal, for the word divorce exploded like a bomb, sending shockwaves through the Gu family. Gu Chongfeng's father, the erudite scholar, returned home that evening with a thunderous expression. He slammed a stack of documents onto the table with a resounding bang. Outrageous. This is absolutely outrageous. He jabbed a finger at Gu Chongfeng's face and roared. Do you know what people are saying about you? That Gu Chongfeng drove His postpartum wife to divorce over some shady woman. You brought utter disgrace to our family name. Gu Changfeng kept his head lowered in silence, but his clenched fists betrayed his inner turmoil. And you, old Master Gu turned to me, his tone marginally softer yet still stern. Lin Lan, I know you've been wronged, but divorce isn't child's play. Enen's just been born. Could you really bear to deprive him of a whole family? Holding Enen in my arms, I met his gaze with quiet composure. Dad, a home filled with nothing but arguments and emotional neglect does the greatest harm to a child. There's no trust left between Gu Changfeng and me. My composure and resolve visibly took Mr. Gu by surprise. In his mind, I'd always been that docile, somewhat timid country girl. Changfeng, he commanded, shifting his gaze back to his son, go fetch that Suwan woman. I want to see what kind of seductress has you so bewitched. Gu Changfeng jerked his head up. Dad, this has nothing to do with Suwan. It's my fault. Still defending her, old Gu slammed the table in fury. Go now, or get out of this house. Gu Changfeng's expression shifted through several emotions before he finally gritted his teeth and stormed out. Slamming the door behind him, I knew he was going to find Suwan, not to summon her for confrontation, but to protect her. The living room fell into an oppressive silence. Zhou Shouyun handed me a cup of warm water and whispered, "Don't be afraid, your mother's here." I nodded, but my mind was preoccupied with another matter. My money. I can't just let this go. Early the next morning, while the Gu family was at work and the compound was quiet, I carried Enen straight to Suwan's place. Suwan lived in a tiny studio apartment provided by the textile mill, one of those cramped single-occupancy units. I knocked on the door. Suwan opened the door. When she saw me, a flicker of panic crossed her face before she quickly composed herself, putting on that signature pitiful expression of hers. Sis Lan Lan, what brings you here? Come on in. I stayed planted at the doorway and cut straight to the chase. Suwan, did you take the 8350 yuan I left at home? Suwan's face went pale instantly, her eyes darting nervously. Sis Lan Lan, I don't know what you're talking about, she stammered. Don't play dumb with me, I sneered. Let me spell it out for you. The day before yesterday, while I was out, you cleaned my place and conveniently pocketed the wooden box under my pillow. Now, give me back my money. Though I kept my voice low, the paper-thin walls of this tenement building carried every word clearly to the neighbors. Curious neighbors had already begun cracking their doors open to eavesdrop. I didn't, Suwan protested, her eyes welling up instantly. Sister Lan Lan, how could you accuse me like this? Brother Changfeng will be furious when he finds out. She's pulling out Gu Changfeng again to intimidate me. Too bad. I couldn't care less now. Whether he's angry or not, that's none of my business. Holding Enen, I took a step forward. I'm here to get my money back today. If you refuse, fine. This compound's never short of nosy neighbors. How do you think people will view you, Suwan, when they find out you stole from others? My words struck like a dagger, hitting her Achilles heel with surgical precision. What she cherished most was maintaining her carefully crafted image of delicate beauty and saintly vulnerability. Suwan staggered, her face turning ashen. She glared at me with eyes brimming with venomous resentment. I didn't, I really didn't. Is that so? I pulled a handkerchief from my pocket. This is the one I used to wrap money before I got married. You must have accidentally stuffed it in your pocket when taking the cash. Funny thing, I found it in Changfeng's pocket yesterday. Of course, I'd found nothing in Gu Changfeng's pocket. This handkerchief had been planted long ago. I was bluffing her. Plain and simple, just as expected. Suwan's composure shattered completely at my words. Her hand instinctively went to the pocket of her dress. That single gesture said it all. You tricked me, she snapped, her face flushing with anger as realization dawned. You know damn well whether I tricked you or not, I said, done with her nonsense. Either return the money now and we'll pretend this never happened, or we'll take this straight to the textile mill's management and let them settle it. Suwan bit her lip so hard it nearly bled. She knew if this escalated, she'd be completely ruined. After a full minute of tense silence, she hissed through clenched teeth, "You'll pay for this." She turned and stormed inside, emerging moments later to thrust an envelope violently into my hand right in front of her. I opened the envelope and carefully counted the money. 83.50, not a single cent short. Good. I pocketed the cash and turned to leave. Lin Lan, she shrieked behind me. Don't get cocky, you think you've won. Changfeng loves me. Even if you cling to the title of Mrs. Gu, you'll never have his heart. I paused, glanced back at her, and smiled. You're right, I could never win his heart. But Suwan, you've misunderstood one thing. It's not that I'm clinging to the title of Mrs. Gu. It's that I, Lin Lan, am the one rejecting Gu Changfeng, that heart you treasure like gold. To me, it's worthless." Without another glance at her jealousy contorted face, I held my own in close and walked away without looking back. The sunlight warmed my skin like a gentle embrace. My heart felt lighter than ever before. Getting my money back meant regaining my confidence. Next came the divorce, but unexpectedly, Gu Changfeng threw a wrench in the works. The day after I recovered the money, Gu Changfeng came looking for me. He stopped me in front of the compound's bulletin board. At that moment, I was holding it in while reading the newly posted job listings. The winds of reform had been blowing for years now. Southern cities were transforming overnight, and even our backwater could feel the change. "Xiaolan," his voice was hoarse, sounding like he hadn't rested well in ages. I turned around to look at him. His hair was disheveled, his whole appearance worn and haggard. "Something wrong?" I asked, keeping my tone distant. His gaze lingered on and in my arms, eyes clouded with guilt, reluctance, and faint traces of inner conflict. Are you really divorcing me?" he asked in a low voice. "I already submitted the divorce papers to your supervisor yesterday," I replied calmly. His body swayed as if struck by a physical blow. "Why?" He took a step forward, nearly glaring at me. "Just because of Suan. I already made her return the money to you and told her never to set foot in our house again. Why are you still holding on to this?" I laughed. His question was the most ridiculous joke I'd ever heard. "Gu Changfeng, after all this time, you still think it's just about the money, isn't it?" He stared at me stubbornly. "I know I neglected you, I know I failed you, but Xiaolan, I do have feelings for you, for this family. Can't you just give me one more chance?" "A chance," I thought bitterly. "In that lifetime when I died on the delivery bed, who ever gave me a chance?" I shook my head as I looked at him. "Gu Changfeng, we can't go back. Not after you kept abandoning me and our child for Suwan. Time and time again, I never abandoned you." He protested vehemently. You just thought she needed you more." I finished his sentence for him. "In your heart, I, Lin Lan, will always be the strong one who doesn't need care, who can be sacrificed, while she, Suwan, is that delicate flower that would wither without water, needing you to cradle her in your palms every single moment." My words cut like a scalpel, laying bare the truth he'd long refused to acknowledge. His face drained of all color in an instant. I didn't." His protest sounded hollow and feeble. "You know the truth in your heart." I had no patience for his denials. "The divorce papers are filed, you'll need to handle the hospital matters yourself." With that, I hugged Anan and stepped around him, ready to leave. "Lin Lan," his desperate voice called after me. "The hospital, the board won't approve our divorce." I froze mid-step and turned to face him. "What do you mean?" He gave a bitter smile. "I'm the hospital's top surgeon. A divorce would damage both my reputation and the institution." My heart sank. I'd forgotten, this was the 80s. Divorce was far more complicated than I'd imagined. "So what?" I stared at him. "Are you saying I can't get this divorce?" "Xiaolan," he approached, his tone softening with pleading. Let's stop this fighting. Alright, let's make this marriage work. I swear, I'll be a better husband and father. I'll never see Suan again. Please." He thought this was my compromise. He believed I was using divorce as a weapon, just to make him cut ties with Suan. He didn't understand. How could someone who's already died once go back to walking the same old path? "Gu Changfeng," I said, meeting his gaze with unwavering calm, "this divorce is non-negotiable. If your superiors won't approve it, I'll keep appealing, level after level, all the way up. I refuse to believe there's no justice to be found in this world. He choked on his anger at my stubbornness. "Must you make such a spectacle? Must you drag my name through the mud until the whole hospital knows? Do you want Gu Changfeng to lose all dignity? Your own actions brought the shame upon you, not mine." With that icy retort, I clutched our child and walked away without looking back. I needed another plan. If force doesn't work, try persuasion. What I need is a divorce reason that neither he nor the entire Gu family can refuse. Back home, I locked myself in the room and began desperately recalling events from my past life. Economic reforms, policy changes, special economic zones. These keywords flashed through my mind one after another. Suddenly, a name popped into my mind. Li Xingli, a distant cousin of my father's, the village good-for-nothing that everyone looked down on in my past life. Early in '84, this Li Xingli somehow got his hands on some cash and went to Shenzhen as a profiteer. Within just a few years, he became our county's first 10,000 yuan household. I remember it clearly. After making his fortune, he returned to his hometown drunk and bragged that his startup capital came from profiteering. He sold Northern ration coupons for grain and fabric too. Southern merchants at inflated prices on the black market. In those days, profiteering was a serious crime. A bold plan began taking shape in my mind. What if Gu Changfeng, or rather, the Gu family, were also guilty of profiteering? No, I can't do that to them. Old Master Gu is a decent man, and his wife has always treated me well, but what if it's just Gu Changfeng alone? What if I could engineer a situation where he's forced to make a mistake, an opportunity that could ruin his reputation enough to constitute gross misconduct for divorce, yet wouldn't be a capital offense or implicate the entire Gu family? My gaze fell upon the desk. There lay a stack of Gu Changfeng's research materials. As a top medical student with exceptional expertise, he'd been involved in confidential medical research. These documents were classified as state secrets before publication. A venomous thought coiled around my heart like a serpent. If these materials were to accidentally fall into the wrong hands and be exploited, then Gu Changfeng's charges would go far beyond just profiteering. That would constitute leaking state secrets. A conviction like that would cost him his job. By then, our divorce will finally go through. Watching Inan sleeping soundly in bed, my heart was bleeding. Inan, is mommy being too cruel by doing this? But if I don't make this hard choice, we'll never escape this prison of ours. Forgive me, Gu Changfeng. If you must blame someone, blame your past life, when you owed me a debt of blood. 6. The first step of the plan was finding the right problem solver, Li Xingli. I took leave from Zhou Shouyun under the pretense of visiting my parents' home. Though concerned about me handling the child alone, she saw my determination and remembered our recent tensions. Thinking a change of scenery might do me good, she finally agreed. When Gu Changfeng learned of it, he offered to accompany me, only to be met with my icy refusal. No need to trouble the esteemed Dr. Gu with his busy schedule. I can manage on my own. He stared at my frosty profile, lips parting slightly before closing again without a word. The desolation in his eyes threatened to spill over. Pretending not to notice, I packed my modest belongings and boarded the homebound train with Inan in my arms. My parents' home was in a small county town in the neighboring province. A full day and night's journey by train. Rocking gently in the old green train car, I held Inan while watching fields and villages rush past the window. My mind flooded with thoughts. This journey was gambling with nothing less than Inan's and my future. Failure is not an option. When I returned to my parents' home with the baby in my arms, my mother's eyes welled up with tears. She kept asking if I'd been mistreated at my in-laws. Not wanting to worry her, I just said I was visiting and had some errands to run. The next day, I left Inan with my mother and went alone to Li Xingli's house. Li Xingli's house stood at the easternmost edge of the village, 3 ramshackle adobe rooms. He was squatting by the doorway, sipping corn liquor with pickled vegetables when he spotted me, his bleary eyes flashing with surprise. Well, if it ain't Dr. Gu's missus, little Lin Lan, what brings you back to these parts? His slurred words carried the stench of cheap liquor. Brother Xingli, I need your help with something. Cutting through the small talk, I got straight to the point. I didn't mention the documents, just said I had some hot commodities on hand and needed a channel to sell them down south. Heard you've got connections. Li Xingli squinted, sizing me up from head to toe as if gauging the truth in my words. Don't mess with me, girl, I'm just a broke nobody. What connections could I possibly have? He waved me off with undisguised skepticism. Brother, let's cut the crap. I pulled out $10 from my pocket and pressed it into his hand. Consider this earnest money, you'll get 50 more when the job's done. 60 yuan was a fortune to Li Xingli at that moment. He stared at the money in his hand, eyes wide and breathing heavily. What kind of goods? He finally showed interest. Don't ask questions, I whispered. Just deliver this package to a man named Hua Cheng in Shenzhen. Here's the address. I handed him a note. This Hua Keng was the Hong Kong businessman Li Xingli had bragged about in my past life. The very man who brought him into the trade. Li Xingli took the note, his expression shifting repeatedly as he studied the address. He was no fool. He knew these were dangerous waters. Girl, isn't this illegal? He hesitated. Fortune favors the bold. I looked at him and said slowly, Brother Xingli, are you really content to rot in this backwater forever, being looked down upon, or do you want to make something of yourself out there? My words struck right at the core of his deepest desires. He fell silent. After a long pause, he threw his head back and drained the bowl of liquor, wiping his mouth roughly with the back of his hand. Done deal. He stuffed the money and note into his pocket with sudden resolve. Don't worry, little sister, I'll handle this for you. Where's the merchandise? I don't have the goods yet, I said. 5 days from now, same time, I'll come find you then. We'll settle the payment and delivery together. got it, leaving Li Xingli's house. A huge weight lifted off my shoulders, the most critical piece of the puzzle had fallen into place. Now all that remained was obtaining the documents and making Gu Changfeng willingly take the blame for the leak. After spending 3 days at my parents' home, I returned to the compound with an. The moment I stepped inside, I could tell something was off about the household atmosphere. Gu Changfeng sat on the couch, chain-smoking one cigarette after another. The ashtray in front of him was already overflowing with cigarette butts. Zhou Xiuyun and old man Gu sat across from him, both wearing grim expressions. As soon as I walked in, Gu Changfeng sprang to his feet and stubbed out his cigarette. "So you finally decided to come back." His voice trembled with barely contained fury. My heart skipped a beat, but I kept my composure. "What's wrong? What's wrong?" He let out a sudden, bitter laugh dripping with self-mockery. "Lin Lan, what a perfect wife you've turned out to be." He grabbed a document from the desk and slammed it down in front of me. "See for yourself." My pupils constricted sharply as I looked down at it. It was an internal disciplinary notice from the hospital. The document clearly stated in black and white, "Comrade Gu Changfeng, during participation in critical medical research, failed to properly safeguard materials resulting in partial data theft and significant losses. After deliberation, it has been decided to issue Comrade Gu Changfeng a major disciplinary demerit, suspend all research activities, and return home for self-reflection." The data was stolen. How? I hadn't even made my move yet. 7. My mind went completely blank. What the hell is going on? I haven't done anything yet. So how could the data be stolen? Why was Gu Changfeng disciplined? Could it be Su Wan? Did she cry thief first and make her move ahead of time? No, that can't be right. Stealing those documents wouldn't benefit her at all. It would only destroy Gu Changfeng, which goes against her own interests. I forced myself to calm down and looked up at Gu Changfeng. He was staring at me with an utterly unfamiliar gaze, one filled with anger, disappointment, and a trace of resentment. "You did this, didn't you?" He advanced toward me step by step, his voice hissing through clenched teeth. "To force a divorce, to ruin me, you'd resort to such underhanded tactics." "I didn't," I instinctively retorted. "Didn't?" He sneered, pointing at the disciplinary notice. "The documents were right on our bedroom desk. Who else could have accessed them so easily? Don't tell me we got burgled." I was left speechless. In my defense, true enough, only we two had bedroom keys. With the documents missing, I was the prime suspect. What's more, the documents disappeared right after I filed for divorce. The timing is just too convenient. So convenient it feels like someone orchestrated the whole thing. "Changfeng, calm down." Zhou Xiuyun stood up, blocking my path. "I know Xiaolan isn't that kind of person. There must be some misunderstanding here." "Mom, how can you still defend her at a time like this?" Gu Changfeng's eyes turned bloodshot. "She'd do anything to leave me. I must have been blind to marry such a viper." Slap. A resounding slap landed hard across Gu Changfeng's face. It was his father. Trembling with rage, he pointed at Gu Changfeng, speechless for a long moment. "You disgrace. Get out of my sight." Gu Changfeng covered his face, staring at his father in disbelief. Then he shot me a glance. The sheer hatred in his eyes threatened to consume me whole. Without a word, he turned and slammed the door behind him. A deathly silence filled the room. Holding in and close, I trembled slightly, not out of fear, but out of rage. Someone scheming behind my back. This person wants to ruin Gu Changfeng and pin the blame on me. Who the hell is it? My mind was racing. Su Wan. Unlikely. She'd gain nothing from Gu Changfeng's downfall. Li Xingli. Impossible. He's just a pawn I manipulated. No access to the Gu family. Then who could it be? Suddenly, someone I'd long overlooked surfaced in my mind. Zhang Aijuan, the deputy director of Gu Changfeng Hospital, a middle-aged man who appeared genial on the surface. I remember after Gu Changfeng's incident in my past life, it was him who immediately took over the soon-to-be vacant director position, and within no time, he got together with Su Wan. At the time I found it strange. How could Su Wan, who was supposedly madly in love with Gu Changfeng, switch affections so quickly? Now it occurs to me they might have been secretly involved all along, and Gu Changfeng was just a stepping stone for their social climbing. The moment this thought struck me, I got goosebumps all over. If that's really the case, then everything makes perfect sense now. Zhang Aijuan used Su Wan to get close to Gu Changfeng. Su Wan played the delicate white lotus flower in front of him, driving a wedge between us as a couple. Then they seized the opportunity to steal the documents and pin the blame on me. This way, they could not only bring Gu Changfeng down, allowing Zhang Aijuan to naturally take his position, but also make me, the mastermind, be shunned by the Gu family. Meanwhile, Suwon could rightfully stay by the victim Gu Chongfeng's side as his comforter. What a brilliant move, killing 3 birds with 1 stone. What a vicious scheme. My gaze turned icy as I stared at the disciplinary decision on the desk. Did you really think this could destroy me? You've sorely underestimated Lin Lan. Those who've stared death in the face have nothing left to fear. Dad, Mom, I raised my head, meeting Mr. Gu and Zhou Shouyun's gaze with unwavering determination. I didn't do this, please believe me, just give me some time, I'll uncover the truth and clear my name. Mr. Gu and Zhou Shouyun exchanged glances, each seeing shock reflected in the other's eyes. They probably never expected that after suffering such grave injustice, instead of breaking down or making a scene, I'd remain terrifyingly composed. Good, Mr. Gu said solemnly, locking eyes with me, I trust you. Just tell me what you need me to do. I need you to investigate Deputy Director Zhang's recent bank transactions, and Suwon's social connections. Since you want to play games, I'll see this through to the end. Let's see who comes out on top in the end. 8. The Gu household was shrouded in a heavy atmosphere in the following days. Gu Chongfeng never returned. Rumor had it he went straight to the affiliated hospital, refusing all visitors. Meanwhile, I set my counterattack plan in motion. With Mr. Gu's considerable influence, he quickly obtained the information I needed. Deputy Director Zhang's bank account mysteriously received an anonymous transfer of 500 yuan 2 weeks ago. Contrary to Suwon's claim of being utterly alone, she actually has a cousin working as a customs officer in a southern port city. The pieces of the puzzle finally fell into place. The documents were likely smuggled overseas through Suwon's cousin, with that 500 yuan serving as their payment. However, these are all circumstantial evidence and can't directly prove they stole the materials. What I need is an opportunity to make them slip up themselves. Soon enough, the chance presented itself. That weekend, the compound organized a social dance party. This kind of occasion is the perfect breeding ground for gossip and rumors. Suwon naturally attended as well, dressed in a pristine white dress with light makeup. She looked pure and innocent. At the ball, many who didn't know the truth cast sympathetic glances her way, and some even asked her to dance. She became the center of attention, a poor victim of a vicious first wife. Holding in my arms, I sat in the corner, watching her performance with cold detachment. Zhou Shouyun was fuming. That shameless hussy still dares to show her face in public. Just wait till I tear that lying mouth of hers apart. Easy, Mom, I held her back. The real show hasn't even started yet. Midway through the ball, Zhang Ijuan took the stage, with righteous indignation. He denounced the despicable theft of medical research and expressed heartfelt sympathy for the victim, Comrade Gu Chongfeng. He delivered his speech with such convincing sincerity, you'd almost believe he was actually an honorable man. Below the stage, Suwon's eyes reddened, wearing a perfectly timed look of empathetic sorrow. Their performance was nothing short of perfection. Pity they had to cross paths with me. As Zhang Ijuan finished speaking and stepped off the podium, I approached within and in my arms. Deputy Director Zhang, I called out to him. He turned, momentarily startled, then flashed a perfunctory smile. Comrade Lin Lan, what brings you here? A private matter, I said with a smile. I'd like to speak with you and Suwon separately. My smile sent a ripple of unease through both Zhang Ijuan and Suwon standing nearby. They exchanged glances. Suwon wanted to refuse, but Zhang Ijuan put on a show of magnanimity and agreed. Sure, let's head to the lounge over there. He probably thought I was here to beg him, or threaten him. The 3 of us walked into the lounge adjacent to the ballroom. The moment the door closed, Zhang Ijuan couldn't wait to speak, his tone dripping with condescension. Comrade Lin Lan, I know you feel wronged, but what's done is done. Continuing this fight won't benefit anyone. Chongfeng's future is already ruined. If you know what's good for you, just quietly divorce him and stop making a scene. Oh, I arched an eyebrow. So Deputy Director Zhang has already decided I'm the one who stole the documents. You know perfectly well whether it was you or not. Suwon chimed in with biting sarcasm. Just admit it, Lin Lan, stop pretending. Watching their perfectly coordinated performance, I smiled, still talking tough when death's at your doorstep. My words left both of them stunned. I pulled out a small recorder from my pocket and pressed play. The clear voices of Zhang Ijuan and Suwon's conversation emerged. Wan, just help me steal those documents and get them to your cousin down south. That's all it takes to make this work. Ijuan, isn't this illegal? Relax, just be careful. We'll pin it all on Lin Lan and let that couple tear each other apart. Once Gu Chongfeng falls, the director position is mine, then I'll marry you in style, I promise. Deputy Director Zhang and Suwan turned deathly pale the moment they heard the recording. You, Deputy Director Zhang pointed at me, trembling with rage. Never in his wildest dreams had he imagined I'd kept such an ace up my sleeve. This was the evidence I'd gathered after suspecting them. I'd asked my father-in-law to have them tailed and recorded. Now, Deputy Director Zhang, Sister Suwan, no need for hysterics, I said leisurely, switching off the recorder. I've made plenty of copies of this tape. What the hell do you want? Zhang finally cracked, his voice shaking with fear. I don't want anything special. I looked at him and said deliberately, all I want is the truth. I need you to confess, publicly and in detail, how you framed Gu Changfeng and set me up. Impossible, Suwan shrieked. Oh really? I smirked, tossing another document in front of them that was the bank transaction records of Deputy Director Zhang and the background information on Suwan's customs officer cousin, all dug up by Mr. Gu. Deputy Director Zhang, that $500 deposit in your account 2 weeks ago came from Hong Kong, didn't it? Anyone could mistake it for bribery money. What do you think would happen if this reached the higher-ups? And you, little Suwan, I turned to her, your customs officer cousin has been making quite a fortune lately. Tell me, if I filed a formal complaint with customs headquarters about his medical secret smuggling, wouldn't he spend the rest of his life behind bars? With every word I spoke, their faces grew paler. By the end, both of them had turned ashen pale, trembling uncontrollably. You have one day to think it over. Holding it in my arms, I stood up. At this time tomorrow, if I don't hear the truth I want to hear, these things will find their way to where they belong. Oh, one more thing. Pausing at the door, I turned back and flashed them a friendly smile. Don't even think about silencing me permanently. I'm the cautious type. Before coming here, I've already given the duplicate evidence to my father-in-law. If a single hair on my head goes missing, your fate will be far worse. With that, I ignored their desperate expressions, pushed the door open, and walked outside. The ball continued in full swing, all merriment and music, but those two would never know happiness again. 09 The next day, the entire compound was in an uproar. Deputy Director Zhang and Suwan confessed everything in detail right in the hospital office, laying bare their scheme to frame Gu Changfeng and pin the blame on me, all in front of the entire leadership. Turns out, Zhang Ijuan had long coveted the director position Gu was about to assume, while Suwan's unrequited love for Gu had curdled into hatred. The two conspirators joined forces to stage this elaborate thief crying stop thief charade. They thought their scheme was foolproof, never imagining they'd ultimately be outmaneuvered by a rural woman they'd always dismissed as beneath notice. The truth came to light, and my name was cleared. Gu Changfeng's disciplinary action was revoked, and he was reinstated to his former position. Zhang Ijuan and Suwan were both dismissed and handed over to the court for false accusations and leaking medical secrets. They now face the full force of the law. Everyone agreed it was a thoroughly satisfying conclusion. Zhou Shuyan held me tightly, weeping like a child. Xiaolan, our Gu family wronged you. We were blind to the truth and falsely accused you. Old Mr. Gu also wore a look of remorse as he offered me a solemn apology. Only I remained calm, detached like an outsider, because I knew this wasn't over yet. My divorce case still isn't settled. That night, Gu Changfeng came back. He stood at the doorstep but didn't come in. He just watched me from behind the door. Keeping his distance, he'd grown much thinner and darker, his once handsome features now etched with deep exhaustion and regret. We stood wordlessly on either side of the door, gazes locked in silence. In the end, he was the first to speak, his voice rough with emotion. Xiaolan, I'm so sorry. He kept repeating those 3 words over and over, like a child who'd done something wrong. I know it's too late for words now. I'm not asking for your forgiveness, just, don't leave me, don't leave this home. He looked at me with such raw pleading in his eyes it felt almost tangible. And in needs her father. Let's start over, okay? As I looked at him, an absurd sense of amusement suddenly washed over me. Start over? What makes him think I'd casually return to his side after he's torn me to shreds? Gu Changfeng, I said with eerie calmness, you know what? When I died, I didn't hate you. I didn't even hate Suwan. I just thought, if there's a next life, I don't want to meet you again. My words pierced his heart like the sharpest blade. His body trembled violently, his face turning deathly pale in an instant. Death. He stared at me as if hearing some absurd fairy tale. You, what did you say? Nothing. I couldn't bear explaining those unbelievable reincarnation experiences to him again. This marriage is over. I met his gaze with steely determination. You said divorce wasn't an option unless there was serious misconduct. Well, Gu, does abandonment qualify as serious misconduct? He froze. When your precious childhood friend needed comforting over some scare, you left your 9 months pregnant wife home alone. Does that count as abandonment? When I was hemorrhaging and needed next of kin consent, your phone was off the hook for hours. Tell me, doctor, does that qualify as abandonment? When I was wronged and condemned by everyone, you sentenced me without even hearing my side. Doesn't that count as abandonment? With every question I asked, the color drained further from his face. By the end, he'd gone deathly pale, barely able to stand upright without leaning against the doorframe. Gu Changfeng, you're unworthy of being a husband, let alone a father. I've signed the divorce papers. See you at the Civil Affairs Bureau tomorrow. Without another glance, I shut the door firmly behind me and muffled, anguished sob came from the other side. I knew he was crying. The iron-willed warrior who shed blood but never tears on the battlefield finally broke down the moment I completely abandoned him. But what does it matter now? Belated affection is cheaper than weeds. What's more, his regret wasn't about failing to love me, it was about losing me. I, Lin Lan, who've already died once, will never turn back for such cheap remorse. 10. The divorce proceedings went surprisingly smoothly with the cautionary tale of Zhang Aijuan and Su Wan. The hospital dared not obstruct us on any pretext. Gu Changfeng himself had given up all resistance. His hands trembled violently when he signed his name at the Civil Affairs Bureau. Stepping out of the Civil Affairs Bureau, the sky was brilliantly blue and the sunlight warm. I took a deep breath, feeling like I'd been reborn anew. Zhou Xiuyun and Gu's father insisted on giving me half their family assets, but I refused. I only took an in and a few of my own clothes. I want no further ties with the Gu family whatsoever. It was dawn when I left the compound, carrying an in my arms. I walked down the familiar tree-lined path. Early risers heading to work cast complicated glances my way, some pitying, some regretful, others admiring. Without acknowledging anyone, I walked straight to the compound's gate. A jeep was parked there. Gu Changfeng leaned against the car door, watching me in silence. Let me walk you home, he said hoarsely. No need, I declined. Please let me see you home, he pleaded, almost desperately. Just one last time. Seeing the bloodshot eyes and stubbled chin, my heart finally softened. All right. We walked to the train station in complete silence. As we neared the station, he suddenly asked, Xiaolan, where are you going? Shenzhen, I answered truthfully. It was the vanguard of reform and opening up, a city brimming with opportunities and challenges, the fresh start I'd chosen for myself and an in. He fell silent. The car pulled up at the train station, holding an in my arms. I prepared to step out. Wait, he called out, handing me a bulging canvas bag from the passenger seat. Take this. When I opened it, there was a thick wad of cash inside along with various ration coupons, grain tickets, fabric vouchers, industrial certificates, practically his entire life savings. I can't accept this, I said, pushing the bag back toward him. It's not for you, he replied, his eyes filled with guilt and reluctance as he looked at an in my arms. It's for an in. Consider it. Me trying to fulfill some fatherly duty. His name is Lin Wanan, I corrected him. He has nothing to do with you. My words extinguished the last spark of light in his eyes. He didn't persist, just silently took back his bag holding an in. I walked into the train station without looking back. I didn't turn around, but I could feel his burning gaze full of regret following me until my figure disappeared into the bustling crowd. Xiaolan, you're awake, stomachache bothering you. Several years after the death, in a Shenzhen garment factory named Lanfeng, I stood before the workers in sharp business attire, conducting a meeting. For next season's orders, we're going all in on Hong Kong-inspired designs, premium fabrics and boldest cuts. We're trendsetters, not followers. My clothing factory has become a well-known brand in Shenzhen. The clothes I design are hugely popular among young people, and I've transformed from a helpless rural woman into a confident, independent entrepreneur. Anan has grown into a handsome little boy, bright and sensible. He's my greatest pride in life. Occasionally, I'd come across news about Gu Changfeng in some magazines. He became the youngest medical professor, with a future full of promise, yet he never married, never touched romance again. Rumor has it he devoted every waking hour to medicine. He grew taciturn and stern, becoming what everyone saw as an emotionless medical fanatic. Everyone says Gu's heart had long turned to stone. It died that snow-blanketed winter of 1983. The end. Story 2. I'm pregnant with the child of the devoted second male lead, but when I suffered a hemorrhage during difficult labor, he was by the female lead's side, showering her with attention. I was in excruciating pain, my body growing colder. At the moment my soul left my body, I muttered self-mockingly, if I could start over, I'd never waste my heart on a man again. When I opened my eyes again, I had actually been reborn back to the beginning of the story. At that time, the male and female leads were passionately entangled, clearly a pair of bickering lovers. The gentle second male lead, Su Yenha, is the childhood friend of the female lead Lin Yuyu, silently watching over her all along. In the story, he embodies the classic beautiful, strong, tragic archetype, raised in a single-parent household with a seriously ill mother, juggling studies while earning money to support the family and pay for her treatment. His life is marked by his mother's death, failing the college entrance exam, and failed business ventures. As the devoted second lead, he remains the female lead's eternal safe harbor and sturdiest support. After she marries the male lead, he leaves for a foreign country, fulfilling his destined to be alone ending. His entire character arc wrings endless tears from readers. I've always been a sucker for gentle and devoted character types, and after finishing the entire novel, I couldn't help but feel overwhelmingly heartbroken for him. In my past life, after dying inexplicably, I transmigrated into a book and became a beautiful extra. Reason tells me I should never get involved in their story, just be a quiet background character. But in the end, emotion triumphed over reason. Perhaps out of shared suffering, I couldn't help but be drawn to Su Yenha, willingly guarding him, doing everything in my power to redeem him. I'd gladly tear out my own heart and give it to him, yet none of it could compare to the female lead's tearful plea, "Brother Xiaohe, I miss you so much." So Su Yenha abandoned me at the hospital while I was in labor, rushing off to comfort the female lead who had run away after a fight with the male lead. Overwhelmed by intense emotions, my water suddenly broke, and then I died on the cold operating table too. I took the initiative to distance myself from the main group. Su Yenha quickly sensed something was amiss. After all, it had always been me shamelessly clinging to him, forcing my way into their circle. The sudden estrangement became so obvious even outsiders noticed. My top student desk mate quietly asked me if I had a fight with Su Yenha and the others. I patted the exercise book and smiled generously. Of course not, I just want to study hard. The final exams are coming soon, and I don't want to be at the bottom of the class again. As soon as I finished speaking, an intense gaze from the front row immediately pierced through me. No need to guess, I already know it's Su Yenha. He's been secretly observing me many times these days, always looking like he wants to say something but hesitates. But he's clearly afraid Lin Yuyu might misunderstand something, so he doesn't dare to approach me first. In my past life, I was both foolish and pathetic, thinking I could redeem him. Never expected to end up with such a ridiculous outcome. Nowadays, I can't even muster the will for revenge. Firstly, I don't want the slightest connection with the main characters anymore, and secondly, I genuinely lack both the ambition and courage to do evil right now. I just want to fully enjoy my wonderful life. After dying twice, I've come to cherish living even more. Life is hard one, whether in the real world or this story's world. I've never truly lived freely even once. In my previous life before transmigrating into the novel, I was clearly my mother's precious darling too, but back then I had congenital leukemia. My father ran away, and my mother had to work extremely hard to raise me all by herself. But later, I was only 15 when I fell to my death. My mother must have been devastated. As I kept thinking about it, my nose tingled with sadness, and tears nearly fell. Suddenly, Lin Yuyu's sweet voice sounded behind me. "Gugu, why haven't you been playing with us lately? Did you have a fight with Brother Xiaohe?" I looked up and immediately met Su Yenha's probing gaze not far away. The next second, I flipped him off silently, mouthing, "Dumbass." His smile froze as he stared at me in disbelief. Seeing the female lead's innocent expression, I smiled faintly. "Yes, I had a big fight with him, a really intense one." "Oh. How could this happen?" She looked surprised, yet there was a hint of secret delight in her expression, as expected of someone so young, still unable to conceal their thoughts. "Because," I put on a very sad and angry face, "I found out he likes you, so I don't want to like him anymore." Upon hearing this, Lin Yuyu's face instantly turned pale as she nervously glanced around. After a long pause, she finally stammered out an explanation. "Ah, Gugu, what nonsense are you talking about? I've always seen Xiaohe as an older brother, and he definitely sees me as a younger sister. We're just very good friends, don't talk nonsense." As she spoke, her voice grew increasingly uncertain, clearly showing her guilty conscience. I found it somewhat amusing. Everyone could tell that Su Yenha liked her. Could she really not notice anything at all? In the end, it's just using the guise of siblings to act as lovers. No rejection, no initiative, no commitment, as long as she doesn't pierce through this thin veil, she can freely enjoy Su Yenha's affection toward her. Too lazy to watch her face turn green then red, I grabbed my vocabulary book and went out to memorize words. Brushed past Su Yenha who was walking towards me. He tried to grab me. I cursed. Get lost. The gentle smile on his face completely vanished, replaced by a puzzled look of mild anger. The male lead Chinyi came over to join the fun, wanting to mock Su Yenha. Me, you get out too, what a dumbass who can't even keep his wife in check. I equally despise every single member of the main character group. Chinyi was startled and turned back toward Lin Yuyu with resentment. Tigress, did you eat explosives or something? I roughly shoved Su Yenha, who was blocking the way, and quickly left the classroom. For several days in a row, everyone kept to themselves peacefully, but we became like strangers. After school that day, I went to the alley as usual to feed Fatty. Fatty is a stray orange tabby cat with high wariness towards humans. I planned to lure it home after gaining its trust through feeding. In my previous life, both Lin Yuyu and I wanted to adopt it. Fatty was about to come with me, but Su Yenha interfered at the last moment. After his repeated persuasion, I handed Fatty over to Lin Yuyu, but because Chinyi didn't like cats, she casually gave the cat to Su Yenha to raise. I took the opportunity to claim it back. This time, I'll definitely strike first. Just as I reached the alley entrance, I heard Lin Yuyu's delicate laughter. Wow, Xiaohe, this cat is so adorable, I really want to take it home. I quickly jogged over and stopped her hand from grabbing the cat. Don't touch it, Fatty will bite. She reluctantly withdrew her hand and asked unhappily, ah, goo, is this your cat? LOL, how quick you are to change your tune. Finally stopped calling me cuckoo. Sounds like a pigeon that's become a spirit. Yes, my cat, I replied expressionlessly, squatting down to put out cat food. Lin Yuyu bit her lip and said timidly, but it looks like a stray cat to me. Why don't I give it a home? No way, I refused outright. This is my cat, I'm taking it home. I refused to give up the cat and Lin Yuyu was determined to have it. Su Yenha gave her a helpless yet doting glance. He spoke to me very politely, classmate Gu, could you take this cat? I couldn't be bothered to argue with them, so I simply picked up Fatty and left. Strangely, Fatty didn't struggle this time and was unusually well behaved. Seeing that I was about to take the cat away, Lin Yuyu grew anxious. She pleaded persistently with a coquettish tone, Xiaohe, help me. Su Yenha sighed with a smile, TSK, I really can't do anything about you. So he caught up and stopped me, launching his usual gentle persuasion. Looking at the boy with his warm smile before me, I was seething with hatred inside. It was precisely this gentle yet fragile expression that made me fall for him time and again in my past life. Accompanied him through his mother's passing, stood by him after his college entrance exam failure, gave him my heart and soul. Clearly, it was him who confessed to me first, making me develop these improper fantasies about him, and it was also him who proposed to me, promising me a lifetime together. But why is he still entangled with Lin Yuyu? At this moment, the pain and sorrow from my past life surged into my heart all at once. The resentment could no longer be suppressed. With a loud smack, I uncontrollably raised my hand and slapped him hard across the face. You worthless man, ah, Gu, how could you hit someone? Lin Yuyu screamed indignantly. Su Yenha's head was knocked sideways by the blow, fingernails scratching his chin as beads of blood began to seep out. I withdrew my hand with lingering satisfaction. This slap is for your heartless betrayal, for your cold and faithless nature. Lin Yuyu was heartbroken and indignantly accused me of being malicious, saying I wanted to destroy what I couldn't have, then call the police. I retorted with a smile. Also, what do you mean by destroy what you can't have? I don't understand. Why don't you explain the whole story to me? Classmate Lin, ha, as if she could explain it. If she explains, wouldn't that be directly tearing off the thin veil between them? How could she continue being siblings with Su Yenha then? Sure enough, Lin Yuyu instantly lost her bravado, looking at me in panic, afraid I might say something I shouldn't. Tisk tsk, she's got a guilty conscience, but how could I possibly go remind Su Yenha this was the fate he deserved all along? Remembering Aunt Wang was still waiting for me in the car, I pulled out several $100 bills from my backpack because I didn't want to get close to these two people. The banknotes fluttered lightly to the ground. Classmate Su, this is for the medical expenses. Is it enough? If not, I can add more. Guyu, don't go too far. Lin Yuyu flared up in anger again. Having money doesn't make you special, apologized to brother Xiaohe. Right now, I ignored her and instead sized up Su Yanhe. Even a clay figure has some temper. The gentler a person is, the more earth-shaking their anger becomes. Having spent so many years with him in my past life, I know him all too well. What he hates most is having his dignity trampled upon, and now, this is exactly what I'm doing. As expected, he got angry, his face darkening terrifyingly. Though the fury in his eyes was practically blazing, he still smiled and comforted the heroine, saying it was fine, truly worthy of being the devoted second male lead. I rolled my eyes and walked away with Fatty in my arms without looking back. 5. I want to transfer schools. After all, as long as I remain within the main character's sphere of activity, I'll inevitably cross paths with them. One careless move and I'll get tangled up in their romantic entanglements. While watching drama and eating melons is quite amusing, it's not so fun when you're the one acting in the play. The character I transmigrated into is a wealthy, beautiful, and privileged background character, an orphan who inherited a massive fortune, with a non-blood-related uncle becoming my legal guardian. In my past life, I had little interaction with this uncle, only knowing he was enigmatic, appearing and disappearing like a phantom. The moment I turned 18, he immediately terminated the guardianship, handed over the entire inheritance, and vanished from my life. With this inheritance, Su Yanhe not only avoided business failure after graduating from university but also expanded his ventures, eventually taking the company public. In the business world, everyone respectfully addresses him as President Su. In contrast, Qinyi, the male lead who runs a game studio, appears somewhat overshadowed. Lin Yuyu envies my lavish life as a wealthy wife, yearning for the social glamour of high society, while Su Yanhe's immense wealth also benefits her and Qinyi. I know the Lin family has shown him kindness, and he wants to repay that debt. As long as he doesn't go too far, I'll turn a blind eye. But he crossed the line. A scumbag who crosses the line doesn't deserve forgiveness. In my past life, I had planned to divorce after giving birth, but I never expected to die from childbirth complications. Is this the price I pay for altering the plot? Lost in melancholy thoughts, my phone suddenly rang. Seeing the number, I felt puzzled. He actually took the initiative to call me. How strange. As soon as the call connected, my uncle's deep, magnetic voice came through. Did you get into a fight at school? Completely confused, I quickly denied it. No, I didn't. Your homeroom teacher called me and said you hit someone. He didn't sound pleased. Oh, so it was the main characters who went to complain. Thinking that I still need this guy's signature to transfer schools, I better not make him angry. Just as I was racking my brains for an excuse to get out of it, he suddenly ordered, "Turn on the video." Turn on the video. I need to see if you're hurt. Before I could respond, he had already hung up the phone. The next second, a video call invitation immediately appeared on my phone. 6. I answered it without thinking. In an instant, a stunning beauty appeared on the screen, and I instinctively held my breath. Dressed in a sleek suit, tall and elegant, he held a wine glass, looking as if he were attending some cocktail party. His eyes sparkled with laughter, yet the smile didn't reach them, sharpness concealing calculation. "Uncle," I called softly. He turned his head with a lazy posture, looking me up and down in an appraising manner. Then, with relaxed brows, he said cheerfully, "Not a scratch," as expected of someone under my wing. "What happened? Tell me about it." Having said that, he casually dealt with those who came to exchange pleasantries. I carefully weighed my words and told a simple lie, saying it was just a conflict arising from friction between classmates. Not daring to delay for a moment, I immediately admitted my mistake. "I'm very sorry. It was my fault. I shouldn't have hit someone." He shot me a sharp glance, lazily drawing out his tone. "Did I say you were wrong? Just a slap. Yet your homeroom teacher got so worked up it was like the school exploded. If you ask me, you let that kid off too easy. Next time something like this happens, tell me. I'll have someone chop his hands off and feed them to the dogs." I was shocked. "What? Seriously?" He raised an eyebrow. "What? You want to do it yourself?" "Well, it's not entirely impossible." He pondered briefly, actually considering the feasibility, "but a young lady like you really shouldn't be involved in violence." I was utterly shocked and completely baffled. "Good grief, old man, you're truly the epitome of double standards. Got anything else? If not, I'll hang up first. I need to deal with the old man." He raised his glass to me and downed the red wine in one gulp. Yes. I hurriedly cut in, "Uncle, I want to transfer schools." He paused mid-motion and stared at me for a moment. Not chasing after your little boyfriend anymore, given up on love. Hearing this, I felt a strange sensation in my heart. How does he even know about this? Has he been secretly watching me all along? Perhaps my suspicious gaze was too obvious, as his expression suddenly darkened and he began impatiently shooing me away. Transfer if you want, go find List, he'll handle everything. List is his personal assistant. Also, next month I'll return to the country. We'll talk about your academic performance then. You'd better explain clearly why your grades are so terrible. How did my grades end up so terrible? Even though I'm at the bottom of my class, at least I'm still in the top 100 of the grade. I was just about to argue with him, but he had already thrown his phone to List, leaving me with nothing but his cold back. In the frame, List smiled awkwardly yet politely. Me, a grumpy old man with a dog's temper, serves you right for living to 30 in your past life without even holding a woman's hand. 7. With nothing better to do, I started organizing the storage room. Anything related to Su Yenha, I threw it all into the trash. Auntie Wang brought over a cup of fruit smoothie and urged me to take a break. Miss, let me clean this up. Be careful drinking, don't choke. I couldn't wait and took a big gulp of the smoothie, squinting my eyes in comfort. So wonderful. The long-lost taste of mom's cooking. Every chemotherapy session for leukemia was excruciating, so mom would make milkshakes to comfort me. She originally couldn't cook, but for my sake, she diligently practiced recipes and became an excellent cook. She was a top graduate from Shanghai University of Finance and Economics, and had many suitors after the divorce. Without me, she could have had a much brighter future. If I die, she would definitely be very sad. But what's the use of keeping a daughter like me who is willful and unfilial, just a burden? In the midst of silence, Aunt Wang suddenly spoke. Miss, I think that classmate Su has a wife-repelling face. He's not a good match. You'd better not fall for him. I couldn't help but laugh. Auntie Wang, you can even read faces. How impressive. She grew somewhat anxious. Miss, I'm not joking. This person looks cold-hearted and ungrateful. A fine young lady like you mustn't fall for someone like him. I nodded in agreement. Indeed, this person is no good. So rest assured, I definitely wouldn't like him. She visibly relaxed upon hearing this. A warm feeling blossomed in my heart, filling me with joy. How wonderful it feels to be cared for and remembered like this. Speaking of Auntie Wang, she's a character I've only met in this lifetime, never encountered in my past life. Probably just an extra back then. 2 months ago when I collapsed on the roadside with fever, she was the one who found and took me to the hospital. She said she came to the city to look for her daughter. Her daughter had been missing for a long time, and she even had nightmares about her being deceived by a scumbag who took her money and virtue, only to die in childbirth. Unfortunately, she was illiterate and couldn't find a job to make a living after searching for a long time. After hearing her story, I immediately empathized with her. Alas, another poor mother. So, I invited her to take care of the plants at my home. Thinking of this, I scratched my head and cautiously asked her, have you heard from your daughter? Do you need my help to find her? She smiled bitterly and sighed, shaking her head and nodding at the same time, yet there was no trace of disappointment on her face. Instead, she looked at me with a serious expression. Actually, as long as she's doing well, healthy and lively, even if she's not by my side, I can accept it. I just hope she can live a happy and joyful life. As she spoke, she gazed at me with tender affection in her eyes. I uncomfortably turned my head away. This cough could she possibly be mistaking me for her daughter? I don't really mind, but that young lady would probably be heartbroken if she knew, having her motherly love inexplicably substituted away like this. But seeing Aunt Wang's face full of anticipation and joy, I thought about it and ultimately said nothing. Forget it, let her be. 8. List actually flew back overnight. Early the next morning, I saw his car at the school gate. He motioned for me to get in the car to talk. I opened the car door, never expecting to see my uncle inside. He was lounging lazily in the seat, head slightly bowed, appearing both noble and dangerous, exuding an aura that kept strangers at bay. I was debating whether to wake him up because his morning temper is huge. Lister spoke up from the other side. Boss, the young lady is here. Oldly, you're really being incredibly thoughtful. Little uncle opened his eyes, his expression clearly displeased, and Lister wisely made himself scarce, giving me a "you're on your own" look. I wanted to slip away too, but the man behind me grabbed my backpack strap. He patted the seat beside him expressionlessly. Get in. I steeled myself and reluctantly sat down. Have you eaten? He condescended to ask. I have, but I haven't eaten yet. I choked, then tentatively asked, shall I take you to a restaurant? He snorted coldly and ignored me. After a while, he suddenly asked, How old are you this year? With shameless cheerfulness, I grinned and replied, I'll be turning 17. Next month. He then stared at me with an inscrutable expression, half smiling. 17 already, how fast time flies. Just one more year left then. Thinking he was referring to the guardianship matter, I happily showered him with flattery, recalling all these years of his care. Even without blood ties, you'll always be my dearest uncle. I'll take care of you in your old age and see you off when the time comes. He laughed in exasperation. I'm only 7 years older than you. Do I need you to support me in my old age? Of course, of course. Uncle, you're handsome, wealthy, and capable of anything. What use would you have for a small fry like me? I continued shamelessly buttering him up. He was silent for a moment before abruptly changing the subject. Do you remember why your guardianship ended up in my hands? How would I know that? When I came in, there was only an old butler and a few nannies around me. You had long since packed up and gone abroad for further studies. And in my previous life, no one ever mentioned this matter. Seeing that I wasn't speaking, he simply answered his own question. Looks like you don't remember. Fine, we'll talk about it when you go to college. He made up his mind and refused to say more. It just piqued my curiosity. Could there be some hidden plot here that I don't know about? Just as I was about to speak, he suddenly leaned in close, his cool-toned cologne mingling with the scent of red wine, instantly enveloping me in an inescapable embrace. I suddenly felt my mouth go dry and couldn't help licking my lips. It's getting late, you should head into school. I've been driving all night and need to rest my eyes for a bit. He stretched out his long arm, and thinking he was opening the car door for me, I quickly shifted aside. I never expected he would just take away the CD calcium milk from the side pocket of my backpack, then heartlessly kicked me off the car. I hate adults with no sense of boundaries. 9. Liz took the confession letter I copied from everywhere and went to the academic affairs office. Want me to apologize to Su Yenha in person? LMAO, no way in hell. I was aimlessly wandering around the playground. After just a few laps, I saw the main group walking this way. Guyu, you stop right there, Lin Yuyu shouted from afar. As soon as the words fell, she and Chinyi flanked me from both sides. I frowned impatiently, thinking how damn unlucky this was. They just won't leave me alone. Su Yenha walked over, his gaze darkly fixed on me. I heard you're transferring schools. Though he smiled gently, his eyes were ice cold. None of your business, I immediately retorted with sarcasm. What gives you the right to question me? Su Yenha hadn't said anything yet. Lin Yuyu was displeased. Xiaohe, why are you wasting words with her? Make her apologize now. How dare she freeze that card? Doesn't she know it's your mother's life-saving money? I think she did it on purpose. Card? What card? Oh, I remember now. I did give Su Yenha a card before. It was for his mother's medical treatment, but it definitely wasn't me who stopped it, because after being reborn, I never even thought about this matter. I took a deep breath and said to Su Yenha with utmost seriousness, whether you believe it or not, I didn't do this. Lin Yuyu became somewhat agitated upon hearing this and declared righteously, this is your card. If you didn't do it, then who else could have? Chinyi tugged at her arm, signaling her to say less. She was clearly emotional, standing on moral high ground like a righteous crusader, venting her thoughts. Give them an inch, and they'll take a mile. I was left speechless as more and more classmates gathered on the playground. I started feeling annoyed. Su Yenha, please move aside, I want to go back. Yet he remained motionless, staring at me with sharp eyes. I'm not here to ask about that card, I just want to ask you one thing. I just can't figure it out. Why did you suddenly start hating me so much? Or rather, he suddenly leaned in and whispered very softly in my ear, you actually hate me, don't you? His tone was utterly certain. In an instant, my heart leaped into my throat, nearly jumping out of my chest. His current aloof and detached demeanor, stripped of its usual gentle undertones, gradually overlapped with his cold and indifferent self from the previous life. Could he have been reborn as well? No, impossible. I mustn't panic prematurely. No, even as my heart churned with turmoil, I maintained a stoic expression and denied it. I don't hate you, I deliberately smirked maliciously and whispered, look down on you, that's all. I realized I misjudged you, so now I'm just waking up to the truth and correcting my mistake. 10. Fine, Guyu, you're doing just great. Su Yenha glared at me with gritted teeth, his fists clenched tightly, veins bulging on his forehead. What do you take me for? A plaything you can summon and dismiss at will, or just some capricious charity from your young mistress playing at being worldly? You overestimate yourself too much, I interrupted bluntly. Even a plaything can amuse me when I pay for it, yet you won't even bother to sweet-talk me. How dare you claim to be a plaything, it's far more noble than you. Hearing this, Su Yen's gaze instantly turned sharp as a blade, as if he could cleave me in two. Lin Yu couldn't hear what we were saying, but she saw her Xiaohe's face turn ashen with anger, ignoring Chen Ye's attempts to stop her. She raised her voice loudly, "Classmate Gu, why do you keep bullying Xiaohe? Just because Xiaohe doesn't like you, you first hit him for no reason, then deliberately stopped his mother's medical payments. You clearly know how hard he's been working to earn money for his mother's treatment." As soon as these words were spoken, the crowd immediately erupted in commotion. At first, there were whispers and pointing fingers. Then the accusatory voices grew louder and more numerous. Completely unrestrained, those words came flying at me densely, like razor blades. I was completely stunned. How long has it been since I last encountered such a scene? Even though it's been a long time, I still remember it very clearly. Back then, due to chemotherapy, I lost all my hair and my appearance became ugly. They deliberately pulled off my wig, mocking me as a freak. They paired me with the messiest boy in class, exaggeratedly mimicking my seizure movements, pointing and laughing right in my face. It was probably a rainy afternoon when they stopped me again for their amusement. Amid the shoving, I fell from the 7th floor railing. The howling wind mixed with screams rushed into my eardrums, and the world plunged into darkness in an instant. Could the same nightmare be repeating itself here again? In an instant, the helplessness, fear, and despair of near death came crashing down upon me once more. I couldn't help but tremble. No, I can't dwell on this. I need to stay calm and find a way out of this predicament. You're shivering from the cold, why didn't you wear more? Amidst the chaos of my thoughts, a coat suddenly fell over my head, wrapping me up completely. The familiar scent of cold-toned perfume rushed towards me. He stood by my side, as if walking against the light. What are you afraid of? If you're bullied, just fight back. I've got your back no matter what. Also, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. 11. Uncle stood with one hand in his pocket, shielding me behind him while List followed closely by his side. As a business tycoon who operates in both legal and underworld circles, he was far beyond what Chen Yi and Su Yenhe could match at this stage. Just a slight release of his imposing aura was enough to intimidate these naive high school students. He surveyed the room with amusement, but narrowed his eyes slightly upon spotting Su Yenhe. If there's anything, you might as well tell me, and I'll make the decision for her. Lin Yu inexplicably blushed and shyly stepped forward first, saying, "Hello. I'm Guyu's classmate. My name is Lin Yu. Well, the thing is actually like this." She stumbled through her explanation. Uncle listened expressionlessly. In his eyes, this farce was probably as childish as kids playing house, yet I felt utterly defeated and at a loss. It seems I can never escape the nightmare of the real world, even if it happened in the life before last. Now the slightest trigger can infinitely amplify my fear because I've never truly overcome it. Long ago, my mother was my protective shield. In my past life, this character's setting was my protective shield, a massive inheritance, superior social status, and an invincible uncle as my backing, so no one dared to bully or provoke me. Given another chance, I still find myself hiding behind others, being protected. I couldn't help but look up at the man standing before me, his tall figure shielding me from all malicious gazes and the flood of harsh words that should have come. Suddenly, my heart grew calm. No one is born strong, everyone starts from nothing. Even my youngest uncle was once exiled from the family, adopted by Grandpa Gu, and later returned with the demeanor of a strong man, reclaiming his position as heir, gritting his teeth and persevering step by step. I once struggled with the boundary between reality and illusion, obsessed with using settings to conceal my cowardice, wretchedness, and lowliness, afraid that others would discover my ugly past self. I've also been stuck in a dead end, completely denying my own existence, even placing the hope of living a wonderful and happy life on others. Thinking of this, I subconsciously glanced at Su Yenhe only to find him staring straight at me. Our eyes met, yet I remained utterly calm, without a ripple of emotion in my heart, because I had suddenly seen the light. It was me in the past, the future will be mine too. The present is reality, I think, therefore I am. 12. I abruptly tore off my coat and strode forward before the crowd. Since it's a nightmare, I should be the one to break it apart piece by piece for the first punch. Let's start with this farce. Seeing this, my uncle silently took a step back, yielding the space to me. After receiving his approving and encouraging look, I cleared my throat and raised my voice. Hitting someone was indeed my fault. I was probably too scared at the time, worried that the kitten might be taken away, and impulsively got into a conflict with Sue and the others. I've already made a deep self-criticism to the teacher and can also apologize to Sue, as long as I don't say Sorry, it doesn't count as an apology. I never stopped paying for Sue's mother's medical expenses. It's true that I gave Sue that bank card, and it contained all my saved allowance, about 1 million yuan, which I donated unconditionally for Sue's mother's treatment and won't take back. Just a small amount of money, don't worry about it. As for why the money couldn't be withdrawn, I'll investigate and give everyone an explanation. When the time comes, I'll post clarifying notes in every corner of the school. I don't have feelings for Sue, let alone harbor hatred from unrequited love. The donation was purely out of compassion. You and Lin Yuyu should stay tied together forever. Don't go ruining other people's lives. That's how things are. The innocent need no defense, and I have a clear conscience. As soon as I finished speaking, I felt a wave of relief. I could finally face the bloody scar deep in my heart and confront myself with courage. Fearless and carefree people were whispering among themselves when suddenly someone shouted, "Some people do good deeds without expecting anything in return, while others contribute nothing but their mouths, just spouting moral judgments." Once someone took the lead, others naturally joined in. Exactly, without knowing the truth, you'd think they were truly heinous criminals. No matter how rich someone is, it's their family's money. They can donate if they want to, or not if they don't. How dare the recipients make demands? We're all classmates. How can you accuse someone without even understanding the situation? Our class discipline committee member also stepped forward. Lin, I think you should apologize to Gu. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. We can't let good-hearted people feel unappreciated. Lin Yuyu looked left and right in disbelief, only to find everyone staring at her with reproachful eyes, overwhelmed with grievance. Her eyes reddened as she ran out of the crowd in tears. Chinyi quickly chased after her. Just then, the class bell rang, and the playground quickly emptied as everyone scattered. Only Su Yenhe remained standing in place. He took a step, about to walk toward me. Pretending not to see him, I immediately turned around and cooed, "Uncle, I'm so tired, I really want to go home." "Then go home and rest, even brave girls can be willful sometimes." He smiled and patted my head, giving List a subtle glance without changing his expression. The other party immediately stepped forward to stop Su Yenhe. After we had walked quite a distance, Su Yenhe suddenly shouted forcefully at my retreating figure, "Guyu, I will definitely pay you back that over 1 million yuan someday. I don't owe you anything." 13. The reason for the card's deactivation was easy to trace. Su Yenhe had used it for part-time job order brushing, resulting in excessively large transaction volumes. The bank suspected him of money laundering and fraud, leading to the card being frozen. I asked List to help me handle this matter and also instructed him to tell Su Yenhe that if he insisted on repaying the money, he should donate it in my name to children in mountainous areas. A week later, I transferred to a high school in the capital. Aunt Wang and the old butler came along with me as well. Ever since leaving behind those troublesome people and matters, the sky turned bluer, the grass greener, and even the wrinkles on the old butler's face seemed so endearing. Every day, I'm in a cheerful mood. Although Aunt Wang didn't know what had happened, she shared in my joy. She was extremely intelligent. Despite being illiterate, she learned everything quickly and soon figured out all my preferences and tastes. She understood many principles, spoke little, yet always cut through the fog, seemingly knowing me better than I knew myself. Gradually, she took complete charge of my daily life, never delegating to others, but she would often gaze at me absent-mindedly, her eyes filled with both sorrow and contentment, as if through me, she was looking at another person she had been longing for day and night. I understood she was thinking of her daughter. I asked my uncle to help find her daughter, but he stared at me strangely for a long time. Fortunately, he didn't refuse. 14. In the blink of an eye, a year had passed. On my 18th birthday, I received a call from an unknown number. "Hello," I greeted politely. The person on the other end remained silent, only their rapid, nervous breathing audible. "Hello." Thinking it might be a classmate playing a prank, I called out several times. That person remained silent. In the living room, Aunt Wang was calling me to make a wish and cut the cake. I was about to hang up the phone. Suddenly, that person spoke up in a hoarse voice, "Happy birthday to you." This time it was my turn to fall silent. I remembered that in my past life, when I was with Su Yenhe, I rarely celebrated my birthday. Only my uncle's never late birthday wishes and gifts every year. Because Su Yenhe's mother passed away around this time, the anniversary of her death was 2 days before my birthday, just before the college entrance exams. Perhaps out of humanitarianism, I should offer Su Yenhe some words of condolence at this moment. But I no longer want to feel sorry for men, because feeling sorry for men only brings a lifetime of misfortune. Probably realizing I was about to hang up, He suddenly grew agitated and urgently pressed. Which school are you planning to apply to? I was thinking. Unfortunately, before he could finish speaking, I hung up the call and promptly blocked the number for good measure, all in one smooth motion. 15. Near the end of the birthday party, List came over and told me that my uncle had prepared a gift for me, placed on the rooftop for me to collect. The rooftop was a vast sky garden, where seasonal flowers were airlifted monthly with their soil and carefully planted. I went up to the rooftop, only to find it completely empty. I searched everywhere but couldn't find the gift. Instead, wearing high heels and a long dress left me exhausted and sweating profusely. I felt somewhat discouraged and decided to go downstairs to confront Lister for a clear explanation. Suddenly, a beam of intense light pierced through the clouds, shining straight down from the distant sky, illuminating the surroundings as bright as daylight. The roar of propellers grew louder as a helicopter descended from the sky, its powerful winds making it hard to keep one's eyes open and causing everything to sway precariously. A tall, straight figure slowly emerged at the cabin door. He slightly leaned forward and extended a hand to me like a gentleman. Hop on, I'll take you for a ride. I carefully lifted my skirt and stepped forward, gently placing my hand into his large palm, but with a sudden forceful pull, I stumbled and accidentally fell into his embrace. The lipstick on my lips instantly left a bright red mark across his chest. The pilot, a foreigner, let out a rather suggestive whistle at the sight. My cheeks instantly burned, my heart pounded wildly, and I didn't know where to look. Fortunately, Uncle didn't seem to notice, calmly ordering the takeoff. I heaved a huge sigh of relief, silently berating myself. Guyu, oh Guyu, he's your little uncle, what on earth are you thinking about? The helicopter soared over the city, with countless glittering lights below, dazzling and beautiful, as fireworks exploded across the night sky outside the window. He mysteriously handed me a bag of documents, smiling with hidden meaning. Happy birthday. Your 18th birthday gift. But don't open it yet, wait until you go to college, lol. I've seen this document folder in my past life. It contains that massive inheritance. Not letting me open it is probably to avoid affecting my college entrance exam mindset. Okay, thanks to my handsome and wealthy uncle. Just thinking about the money inside that could last lifetimes, my words instantly turned extra sweet. He immediately flicked my forehead. Our guardianship has ended. He seemed to emphasize these words heavily. Stop calling me uncle. It makes me sound old and ruins my romantic prospects. He gazed at me meaningfully, his eyes dark and inscrutable, rubbing my forehead. I thought to myself, you've never had any romantic prospects to begin with. How can you blame me for that? You look quite unconvinced, he said with a forced smile. Not at all, I stubbornly denied. Heh, then what should I call you from now on? I immediately asked humbly. As you wish, Chi-Zian. I tentatively called out. He didn't respond. Brother Chi. He gave me a dirty look. Brother Zian, Brother Xiaoyan. I suddenly felt mischievous and started calling out random names one after another, getting more and more excited, but failed to notice his increasingly strange expression. Later, he told me that actually, that day, he would have preferred to hear me call out somewhere else. You pervert. 16. After the college entrance exams, I received the admission letter from Jinghua University. During the 2-month summer vacation, I took Wang Ma and the old butler on a wild trip across the country. I've noticed that I seem to be relying more and more on Auntie Wang when playing. If she's not around, I feel a bit empty inside. Whenever there's something delicious or fun, I'm always the first to excitedly share it with her. I even worry that if one day she finds her own daughter, will she still cherish me as much as she does now? But stealing someone else's maternal love is shameful. I can only try to suppress these feelings deep in my heart, afraid to let Auntie Wang notice, but she seemed to sense my restlessness and quietly maintained an appropriate distance from me. Though somewhat saddened, there was nothing I could do about it. Chi Zian would occasionally fly over to accompany me on trips, but after 2 or 3 days, he'd be busy flying back again. More often, he would send List over to keep an eye on me in his stead, claiming it was to prevent me from straying from the right path. College life arrived very soon. Freshman year was quite busy, but Chi Zian had more free time. He specifically drove me home and to school on weekends, often taking me out to eat, drink, and have fun. I always feel like he's been holding something against me lately because the way he looks at me grows increasingly inscrutable and unfathomable with each glance, like a venomous serpent lurking in the darkness, waiting for the perfect moment to devour its prey. Or perhaps I'm Overthinking it. According to memories from my past life, the internet industry will usher in a new wave of development opportunities in 2 years. I plan to seize the initiative and get a share of the pie. The startup capital naturally came from that huge inheritance, so, on an ordinary morning, I opened that untouched file folder 17. Unlike the previous life, besides the inheritance transfer agreement, there were 2 additional letters inside. One was an ancient-style marriage certificate, the other was a handwritten letter. I casually glanced at the marriage certificate, but my gaze was instantly riveted, and a storm of shock surged within me. Why are my name and Cheese-Ian's written on this? For some inexplicable reason, a secret excitement quietly spread through my heart. I patted my flushed cheeks, suppressed the corners of my mouth that were curling up, and reopened that handwritten letter, signed by Uncle Goo and dated 7 years ago. I skimmed through it in no time. The gist of the letter was that Cheese-Ian and I had been betrothed since childhood, but as fate would have it, after Cheese-Ian fell into misfortune, he was adopted by Grandpa Goo to conceal his identity, and later successfully returned to his family, reclaiming everything. Before his death, Father Goo left a will specifically requesting Cheese-Ian to marry me and take over the Goo family business. The letter stated that if I wanted the inheritance, I must marry Cheese-Ian, otherwise the entire inheritance would go to Cheese-Ian. This was done to prevent the Goo family's wealth from falling into the hands of ill-intentioned people, which could destroy a century-old foundation overnight, while also avoiding me being constantly targeted and schemed against. So you're saying if I hadn't married Cheese-Ian, I would have lost both the person and the money? Damn it. What kind of bullshit plot is this? I refuse to accept this. I protest. I want to report the author for writing nonsense. Wait, that's not right. I suddenly realized. Why didn't I just use the phrase, lose both the person and the money? Hee. I accidentally revealed my thoughts, but why didn't Cheese-Ian ever mention this in my previous life? And he even returned all the inheritance to me. Could it be that he dislikes me, would rather lose money than keep the wife? 18. I was so melancholy that I ate 2 fewer bowls of rice at lunch. Aunt Wong clearly noticed, and after lunch, she knocked on my bedroom door. Little fish, are you feeling down today? She asked kindly. Sitting by the bed, I collapsed weakly onto the bed, clinging to Fatty while throwing a tantrum in her arms, rolling around. Auntie Wong, I'm so conflicted. What's troubling you, little fish? Why don't you tell me about it? She smiled gently. Well, I twisted my fingers nervously, stammering. It's just that I think I've developed feelings for someone, but because of some bad things that happened before, I might not have the courage to like anyone anymore. She smiled knowingly. Just because a little fish choked once while eating, should it never eat again? I shook my head. Of course not. How could one forsake good food? Then she continued thoughtfully, by the same logic, is it worth giving up many other wonderful things just because of one bad experience? I immediately shook my head, but I'm not sure if he likes me, I muttered quietly, feeling somewhat dejected. You're talking about Mr. Chi, aren't you? Her response hit the nail on the head, having my thoughts seen through so easily. I buried my head in Fatty's big belly in embarrassment. I actually think if it's Mr. Chi, little fish could give it a try. She gently lifted my head, freeing Fatty's belly. I believe Mr. Chi isn't the type to play with people's feelings. Perhaps I'm just not ready myself. I couldn't help but sigh. She then smiled slightly and comforted me considerately. Little fish, remember this, whether you choose to marry or stay single, either path should be taken for the sake of happiness, but neither is a completely foolproof choice when you don't know where to start. Try following your most primal instinct, go with your intuition, you might just stumble upon an unexpected surprise. And Wong went out, leaving me alone to quietly gather my thoughts. After thinking for a long time, I realized she was right. There is no perfect choice in this world. I should let go of the past and give myself a chance. So I immediately got out of bed and rushed into the study. Slamming the marriage certificate onto his desk with hands on my hips, I declared boldly despite lacking justification. Cheese-Ian, do you want a wife or not? He slowly raised his head, stared at the marriage certificate for a long while, then said expressionlessly, if you want the inheritance, I can give it to you directly. No. I shook a finger and said seriously, that inheritance is the betrothal gift for marrying you. What if I don't want it? He raised an eyebrow and looked at me leisurely. I stepped forward, grabbed his tie, and pretended to be fierce, saying, then I'll have no choice but to kidnap you back to the Goo family ancestral home to be my bandit's wife. He feigned a sigh, smiling like a fox with a big tail. Well then, I'll reluctantly accept it. I patted his head. Good boy. I'll work hard to earn money and take care of you. He loosened his cuffs and glanced at me sideways. Have I been too indulgent with you lately? Sensing danger, I quickly made my escape. His teasing voice immediately came from behind. Little coward. After the impulse came a wave of fear. Standing outside the study door, my heart pounded wildly, my back drenched in cold sweat. Heaven knows how much I was bluffing just now. My legs weak with nervousness, I couldn't help but touch my face. It was indeed burning hot, probably red as a ripe tomato by now. At least he knows what's good for him. If he dares to refuse, well, actually getting rejected isn't the end of the world, so what if I fail? There's plenty more fish in the sea. 19. According to the plot, Chinyi and Lin Yu would both be admitted to Shanghai Ocean University, while Su Yanhe, after repeating a year, followed closely by entering the neighboring Shanghai Jiaotong University. But I never expected to see Su Yanhe as the freshman representative giving a speech at the new student orientation ceremony. He was clearly targeting me, because he openly and aggressively pursued me. Accidental encounters, saving seats, buying meals, sending flowers and gifts, posting on confession walls. He would stop at nothing. Gossip spread instantly across campus. A handsome freshman hopelessly infatuated with the department's flower, willingly licking boots. I've rejected him countless times. I even crushed the gifts underfoot in front of him and threw them in the trash, but it completely failed to dispel his paranoia. That day, after the club's public performance ended, I gave a thank you speech as the lead actor amid the crowd's teasing. A senior came up to present flowers. This senior had previously pursued me, but was rejected, and recently showed strong signs of making a comeback. On stage, he suddenly knelt on one knee, pulled out a ring, and unexpectedly proposed to me in public. The hundreds of drowsy eyes in the audience instantly lit up, and even the students who were about to leave early stayed. Everyone was waiting for my reaction. Just as I was feeling a headache, I suddenly felt an inexplicable chill down my spine. A sharp gaze from the crowd was firmly locked on me. I instinctively turned my head, only to find Qi Zian had somehow arrived here. He leaned against a corner of the auditorium, staring straight at me with a half-smile. Before me knelt the senior student on one knee. Behind me was Qi Zian's snake-like gaze. Between the devil and the deep blue sea, I was caught in a dilemma, wishing I could vanish into thin air. After carefully considering my words, I was about to politely decline the senior. Suddenly and unexpectedly, another figure rushed onto the stage. It was Su Yanhe. What the hell are you doing? He threw a punch at the senior. The two immediately started grappling with each other. The onlookers quickly stepped in to break up the fight. I took advantage of the chaos to slip away quickly. I originally planned to sneak around Qi Zian through the back door, but unexpectedly, he blocked my path right then. He stepped closer to me, one step at a time. Each step felt like it landed right on the tip of my heart, making it tremble. With a cold senior in front and a devoted junior behind, our little fish is quite the charmer, isn't she? Though the words were complimentary, his smile was eerily sinister. Not bad. My eyes darted around uneasily. What, you think it's not enough? He raised his voice in dissatisfaction. Seeing him puff up like an angry chubby cat, I walked over amusedly to smooth his ruffled fur. Don't be mad, I'll treat you to fish when we get home. I wrapped my arms around his waist and planted a light kiss on his chin. He narrowed his eyes in delight. The next second, he suddenly lifted me up and pinned me against the wall with a grin. But I can't wait to get home. Terrified, I immediately tried to pry his hand away. Let go. There are cameras here. Don't embarrass yourself and drag me into it. He swiftly pulled off the suit jacket draped over his arm and threw it over my head. That should take care of it. You're just burying your head in the sand. Before I could finish speaking, his forceful yet tender kiss came down. Afterwards, he looked thoroughly satisfied. After finishing the small fish, when do we eat the big one? He asked humbly. I covered the cut on my lip and gave him a disdainful look. 20. I moved out of the dorm and went back home, leaving campus right after class to avoid running into any more bad romantic prospects. Petty squabbles are minor, but upsetting Qi Zian's massive jealousy is a serious matter. After Su Yanhe failed to intercept me several times, he gradually began to give up. After all, for him, scholarships and part-time jobs were more important. He got into a public fight with that senior student, and both of them received disciplinary actions from the school. I encountered him again 2 years after graduating from university. At a well-known law firm, his startup had failed, and he came to consult about bankruptcy liabilities. We crossed paths in the hallway, and I walked past him without a sideways glance, yet he reached out and stopped me. Only then did I see clearly. His appearance was utterly haggard and gaunt, a far cry from the spirited CEO Su of his past life. We were classmates once. Care for a drink? He asked softly. I took a step back, No need, let's talk about it right here. His head drooped listlessly, yet he smiled tenderly, as if he had never suffered hardship or failure. Do you know why I started this business? My personality is clearly not suited for being a merchant at all, I thought to myself. It's all for Lin Yu. You saw Qingyi running his studio with such vigor, couldn't stand being outdone, and jumped on the entrepreneurship bandwagon too. Without waiting for my reply, he continued talking to himself. I was thinking, if I became stronger than that man, strong enough to make everyone take notice, would you finally look at me differently? Boy, you're overthinking this. I had no interest in hearing about his entrepreneurial journey, and certainly didn't want to know I'd been cast in the female lead's role against my will. I turned to leave. He suddenly lunged at me, gripping my wrist tightly with bloodshot eyes. It was me who got close to you first. Startled, I raised my foot to kick him. His eyes cleared in an instant as he reluctantly released my hand. Sorry, I lost control. Then he gazed at me intently again. Someone asked me to relay a message to you. He said he didn't mean to abandon you and your child that day. When he went to find Lin Yu, he intended to end things and tell her to stop pursuing him. But he never expected. What nonsense are you spouting? I impatiently cut him off, pretending to be completely clueless. I'm not even married, how could I have a child? Did Su Yanhe also get reborn? I don't know, but I no longer had the heart to investigate, because none of that had anything to do with me. He shouted at my retreating figure, be careful of your uncle, he's not a good person, he harbors ill intentions toward you. I turned a deaf ear. I just kept striding forward. Later on, from high school classmates, I gradually heard some things about the male and female leads. Without the catalysis and assistance of Su Yanhe, the devoted second male lead, their romantic journey suddenly became full of obstacles. The two stumbled their way into the marriage hall. However, the issues from their dating days were never fundamentally resolved. After marriage, new conflicts erupted. Over time, the two ultimately ended up divorcing. As for Su Yanhe, it's said that after attending the main couple's wedding, he went abroad and was never heard from again. 21. Not long after Qi Zian and I got engaged, Aunt Wang suddenly fell seriously ill. The illness was severe, and within days the doctors issued a critical condition notice. The illness came on quite strangely, but Aunt Wang didn't seem to care at all. I was so anxious I kept pacing around, dragging Qi Zian to consult various experts, but it was all in vain. That evening, Aunt Wang suddenly became energetic again and even had the strength to eat. She quietly watched the sunset outside the window. Little fish, the time has come, I must go now, and I may never return. I understood this was a final rally before the end, and with tear-blurred vision, I leaned over the bedside. No, your daughter hasn't been found yet, you must stay strong, we'll find a way to cure you. After all this time, I'd long since subconsciously come to see her as a second mother. No, she smiled gently, bathed in profound happiness. I actually found her long ago. I watched her grow up healthy, take the college entrance exams, graduate from university, get engaged. She found someone willing to care for her, and will live a happy life from now on. So she had already found her daughter long ago. She never told me, but she never left me either. For a moment, I didn't know whether to feel relieved or sad. She looked at me deeply, reluctant to part. As our eyes met, emotions surged uncontrollably, and I couldn't help but blurt out, Mom. Unexpectedly, she responded with a smile. Yes. Then she said nonchalantly, at last, we've recognized each other as mother and daughter. These words struck like a bolt from the blue, leaving my mind blank and my heart racing wildly. A bizarre thought slowly surfaced in my mind. No wonder the taste of her cooking felt so familiar to me. No wonder she insisted I call her Auntie Wang instead of Mrs. Wang. No wonder she was illiterate. The writing systems were completely different. While I had systematically learned this world's knowledge and had long grown accustomed to those characters and symbols, if I could transmigrate into a book, others certainly could too. Mom, yes, Mom, I'm here. I threw myself into her arms, sobbing uncontrollably, calling out to her over and over again. She patiently responded to me each time without complaint. I'm sorry, I wailed bitterly. I'm sorry I didn't recognize you sooner. I'm sorry it took me so long to call you Mom. I'm sorry I didn't take good care of you either. But why is it that the moment I finally meet my mother, she has to leave me forever? Sweetheart, don't cry, it's not like we'll never see each other again, she said softly as she wiped away my tears. Take good care of yourself, don't lose your temper. When Mom learns how to send dreams, I'll come visit you often. What do you mean? I sobbed uncontrollably. Well, I was only able to come here thanks to my master's help, but as the price for helping you be reborn, I had to become his disciple, inherit his legacy, And couldn't acknowledge you as my mother, she explained gently. The more I listened, the more astonished I became. Hastily wiping away my tears, I pressed on. Who is your master, Lady Mangpa? She replied with an embarrassed smile. My master praised my cooking skills and wanted me to take over his job of brewing Mangpa soup. My mouth instantly gaped as wide as a goose egg. After a long while, I finally found my voice again and choked out. You're not lying to me just to make me happy, are you? When have I ever lied to you? I wiped my tears, sniffling and sobbing. Then Mom. You mustn't forget me, you have to come visit me often. She nodded with tears in her smile. Wait for me in the future, when I'll bring your son-in-law to see you at the Bridge of Helplessness. She burst into laughter and playfully tapped my nose with her translucent finger. We held each other tightly in an embrace. Before long, in a dazzling halo of light, her body gradually faded away, finally transforming into a streak of light. It flew out the window. Time began flowing again, and only then did I hear Chi Xian's anxious shouts outside the door. Xiao Yu, what happened? I heard you crying. He forcefully broke open the door, rushed in, didn't even glance at the empty bed, and strode over to pull me into his embrace. It's okay, don't be afraid, I'm here with you, you're not alone. Tears streamed freely as I buried my face hard into his chest. So, I wasn't all alone after all. While I'm here trying my best to redeem others, Mom is also working hard to save me on the other end of main text. Extra 1. Chi Xian fell in love with Guyu at first sight. Unfortunately, at that time, he didn't know this was the person he was betrothed to since childhood. They first met at a rural homestay. At the time, he was looking for a parking spot when an old man suddenly ran over and lay down right in front of his car. He suddenly realized this was a setup for extortion. Already irritated from driving, now some fool was trying to scam him. Just as he hesitated between driving off or paying to avoid trouble, a strange girl rushed over. Guyu came to deliver justice. She and her roommates had just been extorted by this old man yesterday. Within moments, she was shouting at the old man, whose booming voice and practiced aggression showed he'd done this many times before. Amidst the shouting, she suddenly clutched her chest, crouched on the ground trembling all over, and extended a shaky little hand toward the old man, making as if to grab his pant leg. Help, I have a heart condition. Don't you dare leave, this is all your fault, you're not getting away without paying me 8 to 10 million. The old man took one look and realized he'd encountered someone who'd stop at nothing. He bolted away with swift, vigorous strides. Chi Xian immediately wanted to carry her to the hospital. Unexpectedly, she scrambled to her feet in one go, dusting off her clothes as she did. Hee. Actually, I'm not sick at all, just scaring that old man. List wasn't there at the time. Otherwise Guyu would have recognized that the person before her was none other than her elusive little uncle. Chi Xian gazed at the mischievous, bright-eyed girl before him, experiencing for the first time what it meant to have a heart fluttering like a startled deer. He used to scoff at such romantic descriptions in classic literature. Why a startled deer? Why not a stampeding elephant? Was this some kind of elephant discrimination? To express his gratitude, Chi Xian treated her to a meal, but Guyu declined, saying her friends were waiting for her return. They were traveling during the National Day holiday. With that said, she waved her hand and ran off. The beauty didn't even leave her name, let alone contact information. In fact, if Chi Xian had paid more attention to his niece, he would have recognized his sweetheart long ago. Although he took over the guardianship of Guyu, it was out of gratitude towards Grandpa Gu. He himself had no thoughts whatsoever about Guyu. The only time I met Guyu, she was just 12 years old, while I was already nearly 20, long immersed in a life of power struggles and bloodshed. How could I possibly be interested in some little girl? So he arranged for someone to take care of her and simply left the country without a second thought. Even though Lister reported Guyu's situation to him every year, he couldn't be bothered to look, only caring that she was doing fine. He rarely sought out Guyu, she seldom contacted him either, preferring to reach out to Lister if needed. This resulted in the relationship between the two people being almost like that of complete strangers. Too, the second time they met was in Shanghai. She tapped on his car window with a radiant smile. Sir, buy one please, support a college student's entrepreneurship. It turned out this was Guyu and her classmates' practical assignment, the street vendor economy, where they needed to reach a certain sales target to pass. Chi Ziyuan chose a car tassel because she said she had woven it herself. Then, like an awkward young boy, he excitedly hung this cheap, colorful tassel on his luxurious, expensive car. He stared at the swaying tassel as if gazing at his own restless heart. How beautiful, he thought as he was admiring. It suddenly occurred to him that after all this time of unrequited love, he still didn't know who she was, but by the time he got off the car to look for her, she had already disappeared. He drove around the area several more times, but didn't see her again. She probably had already returned to school. He was frustrated for quite a while, but it was no use. However, he planned to attend to the important matters first and come back to search slowly later. This trip back to Shanghai was mainly to handle the Gu family inheritance matters. The little niece was already in college. It was time for him to return the inheritance to her. As for the arranged marriage, he never took it seriously. He wouldn't force himself to marry someone he didn't love for money, nor would he ruin a girl's entire life. Besides, he already had someone he liked now. 3. The heavens played a huge joke on him when he stepped into the same doorway with Guyu. He was utterly shocked, with a tinge of regret creeping in. Guyu was also stunned, speechless. The situation became extremely awkward. It was the old butler who came to smooth things over at the dinner table. She kept calling him uncle repeatedly, each address feeling like a needle in his ear. Just 7 years apart, was he really that old? At this moment, he felt immensely grateful for the existence of their betrothal agreement, but before he could figure out how to bring it up, Guyu arrived with Su Yenhe. Ah, she already has someone she likes. It seems I was too late. He couldn't stop regretting, hating himself for not being attentive enough and letting the opportunity slip away. Emotions swung wildly between extreme joy and sorrow. Falling from heaven into hell is nothing compared to this. In truth, he had the despicable thought of using the marriage contract and the inheritance to force Guyu to marry him, but would that still be Chi Zian if he did so? He disdained being the third party who steals love, nor did he want a relationship obtained through coercion. He's not that desperate for love, so he chose to let go, taking the marriage certificate and will, leaving only the inheritance agreement. After all, it was just a fleeting infatuation. With time, as he encountered new people and experiences, those feelings would surely fade, but he never expected that in the years to come, he would rarely meet someone who could make his heart flutter like that again. To prevent himself from developing inappropriate thoughts and committing irreversible actions, Chi Zian deliberately avoided contacting Guyu after leaving Shanghai. He appeared even more indifferent than before, showing no concern for her. The only constant was the birthday gifts and blessings he sent annually in his capacity as an elder. He quietly kept track of Guyu's activities, as if trying to make up for all the missing love from those years. For that morning, List entered the CEO's office with unease. 5 minutes later, a roar of anger came from inside. The enraged person smashed everything in the office to pieces with loud crashes. List stood silently guarding outside the door, forbidding anyone from peeking. Chi Zian clutched the death certificate, collapsing to the ground in despair, his palms bleeding profusely from broken glass. Su Yenhe, how dare he do this? I personally handed her over to him, and this is how he treated her. She was only 25 years old, yet she died with her unborn child. He hated Su Yenhe for being fickle, and hated himself even more for not taking better care of her. During that period, the entire corporation was shrouded in gloom, with executives walking on eggshells, afraid to even breathe too loudly for fear of catching the boss's attention for any mistake. After handling Guyu's funeral, Chi Zian began settling accounts. Su Yenhe was never cut out for business. Were it not for the Chi family backing him, he would have squandered the Gu family's inheritance long ago. It was all too easy for Chi Zian to deal with him. On the day the Su family went bankrupt, Su Yenhe was brought before him like a stray dog by his subordinates. She's dead, and there's no need for you to live either. He fondly toyed with the tassel in his hand, his gaze icy. But death would be too merciful for you. I don't want you going down to find her just yet. For her and the child's 2 lives, I'll take one of your arms and one of your legs as tribute. Su Yenhe shouted at him furiously, give me Guyu's ashes back. You like her, don't you? A mere uncle like you actually fell in love with your own niece. Thankfully she died without knowing, otherwise she'd have been so disgusted she couldn't eat for 3 days. Ha 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 ha. The loud laughter abruptly stopped. Su Yenhe was dragged away. Soon, agonizing screams echoed from the basement. 5. Chi Zian never married in his lifetime. On his deathbed, he ordered his adopted son to bury his ashes together with Guyu's. After death, his soul wandered everywhere. More often than not, he would sit in front of Guyu's grave, rambling about his longing and regrets. One day, a rift suddenly appeared in the sky, as if someone had torn open a gash. A flash of white light emerged from within, sucking Chi Zian inside. When he opened his eyes, he saw a long-haired man dressed in ancient attire. He wondered, had he arrived at the underworld? A long-haired man points at a mirror and speaks to a tall woman beside him. Your daughter is right here, remember, you must not reveal your true identity to her. The woman nods solemnly. Chi Zian glances curiously at the mirror, only to discover that the daughter they're discussing is none other than Guyu. The lady leaped into the mirror and transformed into a slightly aged woman. Before Chi Zian could figure out what was happening, the long-haired man had already spotted him. How did this one escape? Must quickly stuff it back before the heavenly down notices. Chi Zian immediately tried to flee, but the man effortlessly caught him and threw him into the mirror. Kid, get back here. When he opened his eyes again, Chi Zian was reborn. The young and handsome List was holding a phone, waiting respectfully nearby, clearly anticipating his awakening from the nap. Boss, the young lady's homeroom teacher called to say she hit someone at school. Still in a dazed and confused state, he casually asked, hit who? Su Yenha. He sobered up instantly, wished he could tear his heart out and give it to him. Given another chance, Chi Zian decided he'd rather die than let the person slip away again. His investigation revealed that the current Guyu was infatuated with Su Yenha, making it difficult to separate them easily. He had been too neglectful of her before, failing to fulfill his familial responsibilities, and she probably didn't even have much affection left for him. He was plotting how to quietly get rid of Su Yenha when unexpectedly, Guyu brought up transferring schools first. The opportunity has come. Excited yet anxious, he flew back to the country overnight. To his surprise, he found that Guyu didn't reject him, but her feelings were limited to respect and admiration, so he decided to stay by her side and wait for her to grow up. He could afford to wait for a year. Once she entered university, he would openly pursue her with dignity. Returning to the Gu family home once more, Chi Zian encountered someone entirely unexpected. Aunt Wang. Isn't this exactly how that lady looked after jumping into the mirror and transforming? He had too many questions about reincarnation and Guyu's true identity. He quietly sought out Aunt Wang to get some clear answers. Auntie Wang just rolled her eyes at him. Mind your own business about celestial matters. He awkwardly rubbed his nose. Fine. Whatever his mother-in-law says goes. The end.